Moment on this. I was looking at Twitter this morning, and Kamala gave us a really yesterday saying day one might bring down corporations and engage in price down. They come to look for landlords for unfair and in American community, there, they want, and I'm listening. upside down, and everything negative, all the you realize, you know, Billy, I quickly went and just looked about that news article of the 3 police officers being fired, and I wondered, is this just a case of DEI run amok? What did they say? Was it DPD getting overly sensitive? They joked about newcomer shelters being target practice.
Ew, not necessarily.
You can't do that.
No.
I mean that. Come on, man. You got to protect and serve.
Yeah.
You can't be putting categories of people into target practice. What is wrong?
Yeah,
you gotta go. I think that's a justified firing, in my opinion.
I do too, and it's like, gosh, it was like the one where the police officers, and again, I can't pull the state out of my squeaky brain this morning, where the officers during a pursuit had hit a woman's car, killed her, and the comment by one of them was, "Well, that's only going to cost us about 12, 13 grand. The the department can handle it," because she was an important person. Yeah, and you're like, wait, what? You're like, hang on a sec. Yeah, that's and that is a difficulty. I'm just going to get on my soapbox a little bit here. It's a difficult line that our officers tread on a daily basis, is the idea of having to protect the community, but also not having to prejudge the community. But given their experience, as we know with a friend of the show, Mark Crowley, who works here, they have good radar. And so a lot of times when they sense something is wrong, they're correct. But that is such a difficult line to walk. It's got to be very, very, very hard on a daily basis.
Well, and I can't blame the kind of progressive establishment for creating a job situation where I think a lot of good people would look at becoming a cop and be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
This is way too litigated as a job field right now, where you make the wrong decision or even a good decision, pull a trigger, and you could end up in jail for the rest of your life because of how sensitive. I mean, you look at the Michael Brown stuff, where that thing was totally overblown in the wrong direction, and that cop has basically had to put his head down and run away, even though he wasn't necessarily at fault for that. So
and I understand that on a much more innocuous basis, and I've talked about this before. My oldest has a deep distrust of law enforcement because of an incident when he was in elementary school and a police officer overreacted. And was he beaten or anything else? No. But now, because of that, it violated his trust in that badge, in that uniform. And he, his first reaction is to not trust the law enforcement person because of the impact that experience had on him when he was so young. And so even you have those in which, that go overboard and when these stories are wrong. And then you have some that I bet this police officer didn't think anything about what he was doing and how he treated my son that day. But those echoes of that behavior and what happened to him that day still impact him more than 2 decades later. And that's a tough thing. And so that industry has been vilified, and it's awful on so many levels, and we don't support them in ways that we need to. And in many ways, it's like becoming a teacher. I've got a kid in my household right now that's talking about becoming a teacher. And one of the questions is the fact that lots of people hate the idea that I would do this as a job, and it's a teacher. So yeah, we got to think about some stuff.
We put way too much pressure on them.
Yeah, we do. Way too much. And think they have way too much influence at times too. So, but well.
All right. If the presidential campaign was held today, if the race was held today, who would win? Frank Luntz thinks it's Kamala Harris, and he thinks it gets down to likability. He says this: if the campaign was about issues, inflation, immigration, Donald Trump wins. If it's about attributes of the candidate, Kamala Harris wins, he said. Trump is disliked as a person, Luntz noted, but acknowledged voters are happy with how Trump ran the country as the president. But Joe Biden's administration is not well liked, he said, which hurts Harris, although she has energy and excitement that voters want. He said he would advise Trump to talk about the border, immigration, and the economy, while Harris should focus on her vision for the country. As Trump, as of late, has been focused on personal attacks on Harris, offering 2 new nicknames for her. We talked about this yesterday, Billy, Kamala and Kamala Cash. He also questioned whether the first black president is actually black. Harris has a black father, Well, that hold on, that line doesn't make sense because Barack Obama was the first black president.
Yeah.
Harris has a black father and an Indian mother. Harris, for her part, has mocked Trump for his statements and focused on his personal failings, including recent convictions in New York and then the payment to Stormy Daniels. So I would love to hear from our listeners, 303-696-1971, if the election were held today. And I always caveat my statements with that, Billy, because it changes. 2 weeks ago, easily, Donald Trump locks this thing up, becomes president of the United States. But I do think that the winds have changed in the last 2 weeks. I'm always amazed at how fast it changes and how anybody can really be independent at this point and be like, well, I was for Donald Trump 2 weeks ago, and now I'm from Kamala Harris. Really?
Yeah.
Like those people exist. And if you're that type of person, I'd love to hear how you bounce back and forth, because from my perspective, the principles and the policies are so radically different about the direction of this country that I think you fall on one side or the other, and how you could just jump in between them is just amazing to me. But is this a policy versus personality? Do you think Kamala Harris has a good personality? Tim Walz, that ticket has a positive personality? I'm not so sure I believe it, but give me a call, 303-696-1971. Billy, you think Kamala takes it if the election were held today?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But not by a ton. It would be a squeaker. I think she wins 1-2% is probably as far as total popular vote. And I bet the Electoral College would probably be a squeaker as well. I bet it would be incredibly tough. But the thing that should scare Republicans and especially the Trump campaign is the switch that has happened within 2 weeks. Trump was up 4 points, 5 points in some areas, even larger in areas. And it was the conventional wisdom that Trump was headed for a second term. And I think that's in part the J.D. Vance pick. I think that personally isn't a strategic pick. It's a legacy pick. And I think that's an indication of how confident the Trump campaign was at the time. I remember seeing an interview right around the convention time where someone involved in the Trump campaign said, and again, I'm not going to be accurate on this, but said they had stopped counting their pathways to an electoral college victory once they hit 25. They saw that many ways forward based on how badly Biden was performing. And now we're talking about Pennsylvania again and how important that's going to be. And if Trump doesn't capture Pennsylvania, he may not be able to return to the White House. That is crazy to think about in the course of 3 weeks, basically, is what you're talking about. That is nuts to think about that kind of a shift. I like what you're saying about policy versus personality. I think the problem with that is the policy focus of Donald Trump. He doesn't have one. He really lacks the ability to do that. If you listen to his speeches, if you listen to his stump, it's a lot about Festivus. It's a lot about the airing of the grievances and talking about how America is bad and talking about what's horrible in the horrible administration. He doesn't do a lot of pathway forward. But I got a blinky light here. I got to talk to the phones. I'll be right back.
Well, I disagree that he doesn't have a policy platform to be able to move forward on, because he had 4 years and people remember what those 4 years were like. And they may not get into all the details about Donald Trump's particular policy agenda 4 years ago. But here's the gut visceral feeling. Life was better 4 years ago. Now, when he started listening to the left and started to follow their advice around COVID, I've always disagreed with President Trump on that. I don't think he was right about pushing that vaccine through and some of the steps he took with regards to COVID. Now, were it as bad as what Tim Walz did and Jared Polis did under their leadership in these states? No. But he made some mistakes under COVID. But I think people generally feel that the 4 years under Donald Trump were better for their pocketbooks than the Biden-Harris 4 years. And so when they get into policy, that's where they're going to go. We got some calls, Billy?
Yeah, we've got Tony from Littleton. Good morning, Tony. Thanks for the phone call. Jeff and Bill Show 710 KNUS. What's on your mind?
I've noticed some changes in Trump that are kind of startling. Forever, he was against electric vehicles, and forever he was against crypto. And in the last 2 weeks, he is all on board crypto. He is all on board electric vehicles. And the pick of J.D. Vance, I thought, was his kids moving him on that. Thiel moved him on that.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard that one.
He is Thiel. Think about what happened. Thiel backed a candidate in Arizona for a Republican primary. Trump had backed the opponent, and Trump backed the opponent. And a night before, 2 days before that vote, Trump comes out and says, either are good, they're both good. Thiel's pick was good all of a sudden. Thiel quit funding him. He quit funding him. And now he's done, and J.D. Vance was his pick. J.D. Vance, Thiel personally financed J.D. Vance into office, along with another.
So what's the point? What's the point with all this?
So there's a couple things. There are a couple things that are going on. One, he's absolutely flipped positions on things that he's held forever. All for billionaires. What it means exactly, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just saying, I know he has no value. See, he's transactional. He'll do it. He'll do anything. But to change his mind, I mean, this is even from the convention he switched. Then these comments that he's made, one to a religious group. This is the last time you have to vote. Which, okay, maybe that's because he's not running 4 years from now, and he doesn't give a crap what happens to the Republican Party after he leaves. That would be that. I would buy into that argument. However, he's also said multiple times now. One to Fox the other day, to the 5, he said, we don't need votes. We got plenty of votes. We don't need, and their jaws dropped. What do you mean you don't need votes? We got plenty of votes. Then I didn't put this together. They have placed 70 people, election deniers, in the 6 swing states in county positions that they can reject the vote. Maybe he's not playing this game to win the vote.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. You're just kind of, Tony, you're just dropping lots of things. I don't know what the point is. Because the point is, he changed his positions. Well, so did Kamala Harris on fracking, which I think was a much bigger change.
Listen, look. I mean, you've heard him talk just weeks ago, batteries and sharks, and I mean the whole battery thing. I mean, he's always been against batteries. He's now coming out saying electric vehicle, that is the future.
Well, he's sitting down with Elon on Monday, and that's an awkward conversation if you're anti-electric. For me, if he's anti-EV,
anti-electric.
Well, yeah, he talks
anti-electric.
Yeah, he's against things like government mandates. He thinks EVs are dumb. He thinks, and he was the whole thing about the sharks and boats thing.
I think government mandates are dumb, but that doesn't mean you're anti-EV.
Let's go back to the sharks and boats thing, the electric boats. He said, "Oh, this is dumb. They're talking about making electric boats. What happens when they sink? Now the batteries are in the water." That's not how science works in any way, shape, or form. But
and he's been saying to the
go ahead.
To the car industry, I'm going to protect your gas running cars. I mean, that's been a big deal to him, and he's switched, and it's okay if it's all for money, and he wants that money. Okay, we can buy into that. But that second piece that's really concerning is maybe this is what he's playing for. That all he get to the vote, have 3 or 4 counties in each state say won't certify. Those states, then nobody gets to 270, and it goes to the House. And even if the Democrats win the House, it's still only 1 vote per state. So whether Democrats or Republicans control the House, Republicans will have 28 states regardless. Maybe that's what he's playing for.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
And all Tony, of it would go to court.
Yeah, well, Tony, I think the thing for me is
I feel like I got into liberal conspiracy.
Oh, I know. I think so. Yeah, I'm not certain I follow you on all of those, Tony. The thing for me is that Trump is so dependent upon numbers and approval and rating. I think it would be difficult for him to not want to have the most votes or get the most for the.
Then why is he said on several occasions? Why is he said on several occasions? We don't need the votes.
Because personally, I don't think he's clever. I don't think he's that smart of a man. I think over the course of his time that we've seen him in public, not necessarily that quick, and gets stumbled and says things that are phenomenally obtuse over and over and over again. I mean, this is a guy that was pushing out as we're the run up to January 6th, that if there is so many questions about the election, not proof, but questions about the election, we need to be able to suspend the Constitution. That's dumb. Phenomenally. That's dumb on a level that is shocking for someone that is in the White House. So that I just think it's not clever. When he's talking about don't need votes, what he's worried about is he's worried about talking to the 5 and looking weak. In my opinion, I think this is an emotional thing. He's like, no. Everybody loved Trump. Everybody loves Trump. We don't need the extra votes. I don't have to go out there and persuade people to vote for me because the country loves me. However, I do think your county clerk thing does have some merit, but I'm not certain that it is a manipulation from Trump. I think that there is a purpose behind that, but I think you're right about that as far as what happens in the court cases, that if those county commissioners fail to certify the vote, there are going to be court cases that are going to be involved, and that will be difficult because in the past, when county commissioners have refused to certify the vote, it has not ended well for them in court. Not a single one has their decision been upheld in every single case that I'm aware of.
Unless he's betting on a Supreme Court that out of whole cloth would say he has immunity. I mean, you could, right? I mean,
well,
remember,
it would be he, but he would have hanging us.
Dude, I have so gotten into weird liberal conspiracy.
Here, just lean back, Jeff. Lean back, Jeff. Have some coffee. Yeah, put on the aluminum foil hat, and we'll be fine. Okay, you get some better signals that way. You're just not getting the right signals. I can see where Tony's going with it. That the issue would be that the county commissioners would be liable by law. Trump wouldn't be.
County clerks, county commissioners.
No, but the okay. So I misspoke. Whoever it is that is certified, but there has been a movement to put MAGA supporters in those positions. And the idea is specifically to be able to reject these votes they had questions about. And people that are in the positions, Jeff, with respect, people that are in those positions say they don't believe the 2020 election results. They have questions about it. So we'll see what happens. But those people, regardless of who they are not covered by the Supreme Court immunity ruling. So they would still be held liable. If Trump was at the top of the food chain and he was the one pulling the strings, he'd get off scot-free. But everybody from levels below would all be held accountable, which is somewhat of what we're seeing in Arizona right now, where the worm is turning. We've got Jen Ellis and a fake elector in this week that have announced they're going to turn evidence and work for the prosecution. So that could happen as well. We'll see. But I appreciate it, Tony. Thanks for the call.
I know. It is. I'm like, it's too early in the morning to figure out where Tony's coming
Jeff,
from.
I get it, man, because here's the thing. But I know that people throw rocks at me a lot of times. I go way deeply into the conspiracy theories on both sides. And I believe Tony was connecting some dots there that I don't think could be connected, but I have seen that idea before. And the concern, the one that I wanted to go back to, though, is the idea that Trump flipping positions. And he does. And he's done this in the past. And Kamala's flipped positions. And that's going to be the weakness in the argument of what you brought up.
Flip on? I'm trying to figure out what he flipped on. Just because he's not was he ever anti-EV?
He didn't support the EV industry, and Elon Musk takes massive government subsidies. So the fact that he's sitting down with EV bro, that means a lot. The fact that he showed up with
Monday's
Bitcoin
going to be interesting.
Yeah, the fact, and again,
he was against Bitcoin. I don't remember him being against.
He's
Bitcoin.
Not. He doesn't like the Bitcoin and everything else, and that's not been something he's been in favor of. But again, the issue being he's taken multiple positions. He has supported abortion rights before not supporting abortion rights. So again, there are multiple positions over the course of Donald Trump's lifetime that he has taken, and that's a problem when you're going to turn around and say Kamala Harris has taken multiple positions too. It's just going to be an issue. That's why it's hard when Tony comes on and says Donald Trump has switched his positions. It's hard when you give Kamala Harris a pass. What you have to do is come to him and go, yep, Both of them have changed their mind on a large number of things. Either we say both of you are liars and flipping your minds all the time and you're both flip-floppers, or we move forward from this point and say, what are you telling us you're going to do now? And then we can decide whether or not they're telling us the truth or lying to us. But they're politicians, so I somewhat repeat myself.
Do you think though that the change, this is where I'm going with the anti-EV. Like, I understand you don't like government mandates, okay? That makes sense, especially if you're conservative. But is the change, I don't remember Trump being anti-EV in the same way Kamala Harris was anti-fracking. Like, she saw fracking as an evil industry that needed to be shut down, and she was willing to sue these companies into the ground. In fact, Chevron, it was reported in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week, is leaving California. Like, they're just done. They feel like the government is specifically penalizing them, and as a result is driving up all the gas prices, and then you have the taxes. I mean, it's just crazy in California how much gas costs. I just don't know if the change with Donald Trump is quite the same. Like, I can understand him going, okay, well, I don't like government mandates, but I don't remember him being like electric vehicles are evil. We're going after the industry. I'm going to shut them down and sue them into the ground. And then like Kamala Harris all of a sudden be like, well, actually, I really like them because I need to win Pennsylvania.
Would it be easier in the conversation if we expanded it to green energy? Because that is a wider swath of the industry in which Trump has taken shots at.
Was he like anti? Well, was he like, you guys are evil to the world? I'm going to sue you into the ground.
He said that the wind turbines cause cancer. That's a fairly evil thing to accuse them of. And he talked about how nasty they were and killing things. I know, but
did he change on them? Is he all of a sudden like, now I love turbines?
Well, now he's
like the way Kamala changed.
But now he's dancing closer to the green energy crowd, and he's hanging out with Elon, who needs his support and needs his government subsidies. So if he thinks that this green energy thing and the whole green energy New Deal is such a crock, he really shouldn't be supporting Elon, because Elon benefits from those proposals. Elon benefits from government subsidies.
I do raise that question. Well, I think X or Tesla or whatever his companies are, there's so many of them. They do seem to be bizarrely mega funded by the government, which I'm not a fan of. All right. Look, I want to talk to you about Empower Home and my friend Gay Ribble. If you're considering selling your home, go with the team that is going to not only give you top level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble has proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you a list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much money you're going to put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it. Guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD. Or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Hey, give us a call. Frank Luntz today saying that if the election were held, Kamala Harris would win. Do you think that's right? I'm not so sure. I think that there's a bit of a cotton candy sugar high going on right now, but when it gets down to the meat of it, at the end of the day, people feel better about Trump's leadership than the Harris-Biden leadership, and I think it's still going to go Donald Trump. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking if the election were held today. Frank Luntz believes Kamala Harris would win and that the entire gains that Donald Trump had over the assassination attempt in the RNC just a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, all of that's been erased. Do you think that's the case? I'm not so sure. I think visceral, I think people really believe that the economy is worse under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They don't like the government spending. They don't like the special programs. They don't like the progressive idea of just constantly pumping money into the economy and thinking that it's somehow going to get better while our debt gets worse and worse. You have record household debt being developed right now. I just don't think it's going to last, and I think it's a sugar high. Give us a call. What do you think? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Billy, I want to get into this real quick.
Yeah.
Did you see what Denver's best burger was?
No, I did not. I'm curious. I'm a burger fan.
Yeah, they have the Battle of the Burgers.
Oh,
here in Denver.
Okay.
And the Cherry Cricket.
Oh, nice. That would be
Cherry Cricket one.
Cherry Cricket's good. Yeah, that's old school. That
have you been? I've only been there like once or twice. The burger's that good?
The burgers are fantastic. And here's the thing: I grew up in the neighborhood, so been there dozens and dozens and dozens. I could from now again, we're talking about decades ago. Kids riding bikes. I could ride my bike there as a kid. Today, you wouldn't let your kid ride the bike that far away from the house because things have changed. But back in the day, I could ride my bike down there all the time. That's a great place. And it was one of the first like bar tavern type places that I ended up going with my dad outside of what used to be Bonnieberry Tavern right there at University Exposition. That was one of the first two places. And it was neat because it was, you walk in and it was the darkness. It was, the lower lights and everything was dark. And there was kind of, and again, at the time there was the smoke, things like that. And there was a feeling that I'm a kid. I'm not supposed to be here. So it was kind of cool. It's a good memory. That's a good memory. I got to talk to the phones real quick.
All right. The burger is called the Crybaby. It features a half-pound burger topped with toasty crostini, blanketed with cave-aged cheese, bone marrow caramelized onions, crispy cheese, frico, and I can't even pronounce half this stuff, and onion strings on a rosemary potato bun with a smear of French onion dip and a French onion soup. My goodness. All right. Well, we'll continue. You choose the news. It's coming up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to go to the phone lines. We're talking Frank Luntz saying yesterday that if the election were held today, he thinks Kamala Harris would win, but it's not a sure thing, and Donald Trump can get back into it. He needs to focus on the issues, though, and the policies that are harming Americans coming from the Biden-Harris administration. Let's go to the phone lines, Billy. I think we've got Pete, Colorado Springs. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, guys. The way I look at it right now is this thing is probably going to go down to the wire, but I think Trump has got some built-in advantages if he stays disciplined, and that's a big if. Whoever his handlers are or whoever's advising him, they have got to get into his ear and reinforce that this is going to be about three things: the economy, the border, and crime. If he can if they can do that and he can stay disciplined enough, I think he could actually win going away. But I don't know if he's disciplined enough to do that. People's lives were much better under Trump. But unless he can articulate that, he's going to leave the door open to get shocked here in the fall.
Yeah, and Pete, I'd add one more thing, Pete.
Why he goes down some of these rabbit holes.
Now, Pete, one thing I would add into there would be, in order to make that economic claim, he's going to have to outline to the voters what he's going to do to make it better. And I think that's going to be a hurdle that is going to be difficult to overcome, because he's going to have to outline certain policies that he's going to take in order to relieve the pressure on the American family. And I'm not certain he has the ability to do that.
Well, here's what he can say is, you were better under me than you were better under Biden and Harris. I don't think it's that hard of a discussion to have. He can say, you know what, your 401 was doing okay. Inflation was way better under me. The economy was growing under me. I don't think it's a hard argument to make, Bill.
It is a hard argument. It is a hard argument to make when the economy has grown more under Biden than it did under Trump. It's a harder. Wait, hang on, Pete. It is a harder argument to make when you say that inflation was better under Trump and it's worse under Biden, but you can't tell me, one, how Biden caused it, or two, how Trump's going to fix it. That's going to be the thing. Is you can say things were better under Trump, and it's going to go back to that. And you can say, well, how? That's how you defeat that statement.
Well, no. Here's what I say if I'm Trump. I sit back and say, because when I was president, we didn't have inflation. When Kamala Harris was vice president, we have record inflation. They have records to run on.
Okay,
Bill.
Pete, tell me this.
Here's what it boils down to.
What is the policy that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris implemented that caused the inflation? What is it that Donald Trump has to do to correct? That's the thing. If you don't know where the leak in the house is coming from, you can't tell me you can come in and turn the water off. Where is it?
You have Democrats that want to spend their way out of this economy. They think that printing money is a good thing. They believe that adding 16 million illegal immigrants and paying for a social welfare system for them and everyone else is a good thing. This type of situation has been recorded throughout history.
Okay, Pete, pause there. Pete, hang on a sec. Pete, pause there for a sec. Okay, that policy talking about the implementation of what happened here in America, how did that create global inflation? How did that increase prices in Italy? They don't
have to win an argument and get into policy details. It's whether or not voters believe. But Bill, it gets into whether or not voters believe it's going to be better under Trump. It is not good under Harris. This is about voting, not winning a policy debate.
If Donald Trump said, hey, I'm going to get each one of you a brand new jetpack and we're going to have no more cars when I'm elected, the voters can believe that. Oh, no, hang on, Pete. The voters can believe that. But the fundamentals don't come to the assumptions or conclusions that Pete is making. He can't back it up. That's hard.
Bill, it does, because you have a record of it.
Yes, we do. And the record is exactly what I said.
Well, hold on. Under Donald Trump, you had very little or no inflation. Okay, that is due to his policies. Okay, policies such as we're going to deregulate, policies such as we're going to be energy sufficient.
We are still
in this country.
And how
we're not going to rely on things.
We produce more energy under Biden than we did under Trump. And that's the problem with this, Pete, is you're talking about the good things that Trump did when Biden did better in certain areas. You can't win the argument that way. Yes, Jeff's right. It can be about feelings. You can vote based on feelings. Doesn't make you right.
And it wasn't just about feelings. Life was better under Trump for most Americans economically. So we'll continue this conversation. Phone lines are open. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Francis, you're up next.
It is 7 a.m. this Thursday, August 8th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights. Yeah, right. I'm sitting there listening to that intro going, okay. Funny. Yeah, that's a unique direction.
Oh yeah, there are times
I'm not shy at all.
There are times I'm out with the kids and they're like, Stop talking to people. Stop it. You don't have to talk to the person behind the counter here. Yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry. They're like, we know.
It is funny how that changes, because I was that way when I was a kid, where I was like, why does my mom talk to everybody?
Oh yeah.
And then as you get to be an adult, you're like, I really enjoy talking to people.
Yeah.
Like just randomly, like, what do you do for a living? Where are you from?
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing. Like, it's fun.
It is. It really is. Yeah. If we're standing in line together, we're friends by the end of that thing, man. It's just, I'm going to find out who you are and why. I just find it interesting. It's really cool. And if you're wearing a concert t-shirt that I like or something, we're gone for hours. We're going to go to the bar.
Billy, speaking of concerts.
Yeah. Oh, Tay-Tay.
Did you hear about T-Swift?
Oh, yeah. I got the breaking news.
You know who
yesterday.
she needs to bring back?
Who? I'm curious about this one.
The Jewish bodyguard.
Oh.
You remember him? Billy,
Yeah.
This was the genesis of this show.
Yes, it was. That's right.
Was the Jewish bodyguard and Tay-Tay.
Oh, yes. And whether or not she needs to take a position on the war and everything else. This thing is scary. So they've canceled 3 days of shows because they found Taylor Swift concert material and plans in a house that was housing ISIS terrorists. Yeah, it was
really going to be a chemical attack.
Yeah, and they were going to go after the big crowd.
It looks like they're going to sneak in some chemicals and go after a chemical attack. Yeah. So, Billy, I wasn't sure if I wanted to bring this up, but here we go.
Here we go again. Yes.
If you don't know, the genesis of this show is because Billy and I got in a little discussion about Tay Swift, her Jewish bodyguard, and the fact that Tay is willing to take a stand for just about every political thing out there, except for Israel and Gaza. And the producers, or the VP of programming here at Salem, loved the conversation, and so he gave us a show over it.
No, so it's Taylor's fault. It is. If you don't like what we're doing.
So I'm sitting here going, first of all, I'm going to go back to this. Tay-Tay should absolutely take a position on this, because this is now what radical Islamists do. They attack innocent civilians, and they're willing to attack her people. Maybe you should be willing to stand with Jews when they're being attacked by the same types of people. Secondly, she needs to bring back the Jewish bodyguard, because that dude will protect her from radical Islamists, and be probably better to have him around.
I'm curious to see what statement she makes about this.
That out there.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. I don't think the bodyguard, I'm not necessarily on board with you on that one, because I'd much prefer him going and fighting Hamas than I think everybody else.
He's got to fight Hamas at a freaking Tay-Tay concert,
So
man.
The issue is, I think that I'm curious to see what her statement is going to be on this one. The other one is that, and this is just the, again, because I'm in the music side of things, looking at the Swifties, is there's a conversation in the Swiftie community about how soon Taylor, and if she'll make an official statement, will come out and support Harris for campaign for president.
Of course she will.
Oh, yes, she will.
Of course she
will.
But
it's the idea of how and when and how that statement could be made. She is very clever in managing her social media and professional profile. So I'm always curious as to the well-crafted message and how she's going to take a position. But sharp-eyed Swifties may have seen a hint in the last 48 hours. I'm just saying. You got to check out social media. Just saying. Yeah, you don't want to see my Instagram feed. Basically, it's music and snakes. So, not good. But yeah. But if you're rolling through it, there's some things that Taylor, there's a really interesting picture that Taylor has dropped in about the last 48 hours. There's like, oh, that's a clue. So I'm really curious. So keep your eyes out to see how she does on the statement here and how she does on the statement, because I'm assuming the statement supporting a presidential candidate is coming. I can't say very soon, but it's coming. It's coming.
I wanted to do was look at Taylor Swift.
Yeah, but it's clever. Again, her managers, this is really smart. That what this did. It's a statement without a statement.
In yellow?
No. It's no. She's wearing red, but you got to pay attention to the picture. So yeah, but have fun with that, and that's going to really screw up your algorithm. You're welcome.
It's Kamala in the back.
Yes, but do you see how it's hidden?
Totally her.
Oh, I know it is, but do you see how it's hidden? Because the way that they've done it, and the way that Taylor. And so okay, our listeners, this is the deal. There's a picture that Taylor shared on her social media, and she's wearing red, and she's striking a specific pose on stage. That pose is similar to something that Kamala Harris has done recently. Now, is Taylor mimicking Harris? No, there's no indication that happened. But the poses are similar enough. Here's the thing is, I can't imagine that given that would have to be something the last 2 weeks, etc. And she'd have to know that Kamala did that, and then she'd have to take that. It seems way too complicated. This seems something
2 days ago.
Yeah, but it seems way too complicated.
Does she not allow comments on her Facebook?
I don't see why you would, but especially given her level, that would just be a fire hose of crap. I mean, you're on social media.
On this post have been limited.
Yeah. But the thing is, the issue is that in the background, the shadow is a pose of Kamala.
Yeah.
So if you look at it, it looks like the shadow of Taylor Swift in the background, but you have to be paying attention in order to understand that's Kamala. But that's the stupidness that runs through my mind, that when I see that picture, I go, wait, something's not right. So yes, you're welcome. And and congratulations, Jeff. Your algorithm is now going to be completely messed up for the next 48 hours. Yeah, enjoy that.
All right. So hold on. I got to take a moment to talk to T Swift here.
Yeah.
Taylor is the classic entertainment progressive. Okay. In this sense, she lives in this kind of fairy tale world, right? Where, for instance, in the Israel-Hamas Gaza attack that took place on October 7th, right? There was a lot of news. She wouldn't come out, pick a side, make a statement. And to my point, she makes political statements all the time. She's making a political statement here. She wouldn't make a political statement there. Hamas and the radical Islamists just this week have pointed out and demonstrated that they are willing to attack her own people, willing to attack her own and kill massive amounts of Taylor Swift fans. That is how evil radical Islamists are. She hasn't taken a position against that. She won't speak out against it, but she's fine speaking out against, for instance, she did a whole video about how terrible social conservative Christians are and Bible believing Christians are. She did a whole video about that. She's willing to take strong stands against easy targets that you can beat up against, like social conservatives, but she won't speak out against radical Islamists that are willing to and planning and trying to kill her own fans. Come on. This is this type of fairy tale progressivism in Hollywood that just drives me crazy. So I don't know. I'm not a fan, but I'll get off my soapbox now. We can check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
She's a lefty, and that's maybe she'll realize that's the bottom line. And Kelsey turned into a lefty, and they're all ridiculous.
But I mean, Blake,
Elon Musk
she did a whole
so important for conservatives, by the way. Yep. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, it wasn't. But Blake, she did a whole video slamming the judgmentalism of Bible believing Christians, right? And she's willing to just take it to them.
Absolutely.
But then when radical Islamists are willing to attack her own people,
yes. What does she do?
Freaking sorry.
She doesn't understand.
Just
She's ignorant. I mean, she's a great entertainer.
That's exactly right.
Puts on great, whatever. They're just entertainers, actors, blah, blah, blah. I'll show you Ben Stiller or play that next hour. These people are ridiculous. You got to go with principle. You have to be educated and know what you're talking about. And, talking about Elon Musk, he is so important right now for the conservative movement. I think that interview is going to be very entertaining and informative with Trump. Okay, I'll continue. 62 and cloudy, expecting a high of 76 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, this is day 18 of Vice President Kamala Harris and her not facing the press, the media, in live press conferences or gaggles, whatever you want to call them. The Democrat machine pulling all the levers and trying to avoid gaffes, I guess. J.D. Vance met Air Force Two outside the plane on Wednesday, trying to raise awareness that she should be answering the press's questions.
Hey guys, how are you? Good. I just wanted to check out my future plane, but I also wanted to go say hello to the vice president and ask her why Kamala Harris why does she refuse to answer questions from the media? And I also thought that the press gaggle following her might get a little lonely. I at least have enough respect for you all and for the American people you report to come and talk to you and to answer some questions. And so I thought her reporters might actually benefit from that as well. So had a little bit of fun. I don't think the vice president waved at me as she drove away, but I'm glad to have done it. And I'm glad to be here in Wisconsin actually trying to persuade people to vote for us as opposed to just giving another scripted speech.
Good move. Love it. President Biden, yes, he's still president. He'll do his first interview since being forced out over 2 weeks ago. It'll air on CBS News Sunday morning this weekend.
Is when they came back and then it all exploded as what he got out to do, to go into politics and stuff like that. And then when Tom Behrens, Command Sergeant Behrens' story came out and they found out what he did, then people were mad because we all did what we were supposed to do. We did the right thing. And it's dishonorable what he did. He left somebody else up to take over his spot. He just ditched us.
That's Tom Schilling on Fox. He was in Governor Tim Walz's battalion before Walz ditched them before they were deployed to Iraq. Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota said people like J.D. Vance can't be critical of Walz.
Well, here is Tim Walz, who enlisted when he was 17 years old. He served in the National Guard for 24 years. And I'm not aware of any military service that J.D. Vance has ever served. So let's just make the comparison there. And what happened in the tragedy of the killing of George Floyd and then the unrest. Yeah, okay, pardon me for that. But to go after somebody's record of service to me is just ridiculous.
Oh, there's that. Smith didn't realize Vance is a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Oops.
Can we get Jessie Jane Dunn back? I think she'd have some words on that. She was on our show yesterday.
Yeah, we need her right now.
Just, you punch a Marine, they just punch harder. It's just the way they're wired.
That's right.
I'd like to see her on MSNBC. I think she'd be great.
I mean, you can't lose your credibility after a statement like that, right? And that was that was Jim Acosta correcting her. So another huge story continues. Senator Ron Johnson working hard to try to get to the truth about the assassination attempt, but the feds are making it extremely difficult. Whistleblowers emerging now from the Secret Service, which is the best thing that can happen.
Yeah, we haven't. That's one of the things that kind of surprised me. Acting Director Rowe didn't mention that last week. We were briefed by local law enforcement who made that claim. We've got a request to interview that officer. That was a story written by the Washington Post, and nobody's really talking about it. It's really surprising. The other thing that I think local law enforcement is I think legitimately concerned about and upset about is the fact that the pictures that Rowe showed the Senate, the vantage point that local law enforcement have are completely false. You'd have to be leaning outside the windows. They were actually concealed behind the windows. Again, trying to pin the blame on local law enforcement when it was a failure of the Secret Service.
That's amazing. 3 Denver police officers fired for texts about illegal immigrants. The department says they were disparaging comments in a group text. The Quarry fire is now 100% contained, and the Alexander Mountain fire west of Loveland now 91% contained. Civitas Resources can move forward with the plan to install more than 150 new oil and gas wells near the Aurora Reservoir. They received approval by the Colorado Energy and Carbon Management Commission. And Jeff and Billy just talked about this story. Taylor Swift canceling her concerts in Austria this weekend because of an alleged terror plot. Austrian officials say 2 suspects were taken into custody on Wednesday, including a 19-year-old Austrian citizen who allegedly pledged allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State. No way. I didn't know they did that. U.S. with 94 total medals so far in the Olympics, added 8 on Wednesday. Rocks lose 5-3 to the Mets. If you want to go out to Coors today, first pitch 1:10 getaway day today against the Mets. 57 in Boulder, 59 in Littleton, 62 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. It is Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Upslope conditions behind a cold front mean much cooler weather for Denver today and tomorrow. Highs only 60s and low 70s with areas of low clouds, patchy fog, and rain showers, and a few afternoon thunderstorms. Some rain showers and some thunder tonight, mid-50s, only reaching the low 70s Friday. Cloudy, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Warmer for the weekend with afternoon and evening thunderstorms, highs 80s. Weather sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist on day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. Polling not looking good for Donald Trump right now. If the election were held today, would he win? Frank Luntz doesn't think so. Now, I don't trust Frank in everything, but I think he's one indicator that's at least worth listening to. Is Kamala Harris, has she erased the bump that Donald Trump had, especially coming out of the RNC and the failed assassination attempt? And why are people interested and attracted to her? Is it because they actually like her? They like her policies? They think that she's actually improved their lives? Or is it just kind of an anti-Trump sentiment? And is that enough? Billy, I've been a part of elections where that was enough. Believe me, one of my very favorite people in the world is Rick Santorum.
Yeah.
And Rick lost by 16 percentage points in Pennsylvania in 2006. Because Bob Casey just said, I'm not Rick Santorum.
Yeah.
He literally had no policy agenda. He is about as interesting as a stale cracker, but he just won because he was able to do that. Now,
and I think that's a negative for Trump, because we know that Donald Trump has the ability to motivate voters in ways neither you or I have experienced in our lifetime. He has an ability to energize a voter base, but it is both positive and negative. I've never seen a political candidate in America that has stronger and more solid base support, but I've never seen another candidate that has more solid and strong anti-support. The no Trump wing of the electorate is strong. And that's a problem when you're doing the math, because that means that Kamala doesn't have to change people from I like Trump to I like Kamala. All she needs is to say, I'm not Trump and I need a few more of you. It's an easier math problem for her than it is for Trump, because there's a group out there, and some of them have R's by their name in their voter registration. There's a group out there that the Dems could run box of mashed potatoes and they would vote for the potatoes.
And I, as a policy guy, I'm just like, all right, well, I get it. And that's part of having a low informed electorate.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
That's willing to just kind of go,
yes, my friend.
You know, but here, Billy, I really do think that name ID matters. And my reason for this, or at least an example, I'd like to point to, is Congressional District 4, Republican primary. You had some great people that were policy oriented in that race. You know, Jerry Sonnenberg, Richard Holtorf, Mike Lynch, Deborah Flora, right? All fine conservatives. There's not a single one of their policies where I'm like, well, if we got them in, we'd have a lib or something like that. And then it came down to, I think at the end of the day, name ID. People just really knew Lauren Boebert, and they liked the fact she was a fighter, and so they were willing to pull that lever for her. And they didn't get into any policy differences between the candidates. They just liked Lauren Boebert, and she had high name ID. I really do think that there's a Kamala Harris, Tim Walz name ID issue, where there are going to be people out there that are just like, I don't know who these people are. Donald Trump, and they'll pull the lever for him because he was a TV star.
Now, here's the thing. I'm not certain that is necessarily a good reflection of our electorate saying TV star is the reason I'm voting for them, because I recognize it. But you're right about the idea of name ID, but it doesn't mean that the electorate is choosing the best candidate. The only thing I would push back on the presidential election, it does hold true, I think, in CD4, but in the presidential election, when you're running, the name ID is naturally increased simply because of the amount of media coverage.
News coverage.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that had no idea who Tim Walz was 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago. Now, there is a larger portion of the electorate that even knows where he was the governor. There's a larger portion of the electorate that understands some of his background and now can even pick him out of a lineup. There's even a larger portion of the electorate that would comment on whether or not Steve Martin should be playing him on Saturday Night Live. Steve said no. He was offered. So just early this morning.
That would be good.
Just because I have a feeling it's because Steve doesn't want to be viewed in politics. I think he doesn't want to be that political. If it was some sort of a goofy role, I think so. But when you are in playing
just down the street from him, he's got a weird house. He's got a really weird house.
That makes me so happy because he should.
In fact, you would
weird house. It should be a comedian.
He art all over his property, just random, totally doesn't just fit. There's no theme to it. This isn't like a French estate.
Yeah,
where everything's kind of pulled together. No, it's just really random
pieces of art.
Makes me so happy.
And you can look into the property. There's a road that kind of looked down. But he was,
and you're in college. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I ran cross country for my school, and so we'd go run on the streets and past the states of Montecito.
So it wasn't bad. Billy, I saw this the other day that 4 million people in California have the option to register to vote. So they do this thing in the driver's license where you get your driver's license and they automatically register you to vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And they declined. So you want to talk about the electorate?
Wow.
Okay. 4 million people in California got automatically registered and then took the effort to unregister themselves.
Wow. Now here, if you are a Republican, you should be cheering, because that's 4 million Californians that aren't voting. And you'd assume,
I know.
Yeah,
but you sit there and you're like, who are those people?
Yeah, exactly. Like
you cleared the hurdle. There's no evidence that these are illegals or anything. Yeah. You cleared the hurdle to actually be a registered voter.
Yeah. They're like, no,
in this country. And you're like, no.
Yeah, it's almost, and this is the weird part, is it's almost, okay, this is an inelegant analogy, but it's like getting the office together and trying to say, okay, we're going to have catering next Friday. Who does everybody want? Yeah. And one dude I'm going to go, nah, I'm out of here. And you're like, okay, but then next Friday, you don't complain. Don't complain about the potato salad. And don't say we have no gluten-free options. Stop that. You know, if you want to be on the conversation, get on the conversation.
Let's go to the phone lines. Francis, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Francis.
Hey, guys. Hey, I don't trust Frank's either. I trust Francis's. That's the way to go. That's how you talk. But,
Frank Luntz.
Hey, I know. Hey, you know, I know I've told you guys this a little bit before, but I kept a scorecard, you know, on a legal notepad, because this is a vote in the negative. It certainly was with Biden and Trump. It still is with Harris and Trump. And I kept all, because I would just put down the most negative, stupid thing that would really tilt the scale against one candidate or against the other candidate, because they don't offer any positives. And so I got to tell you flat out, before Biden, you know, dropped out, he was ahead, just in general terms, not because he said necessarily stupid things or did stupid things, but it was mostly because he couldn't do anything. And in the meantime, though, Trump had a huge tally going too. And right now, it's the reason you're seeing the polls the way they are, I think, is, of course, there's a little bit of a sugar high with the Harris campaign, because Trump's a negative candidate. He's a bad candidate. And you know, people got to get their heads wrapped around that going into this election. But there's also kind of a reverse cocaine high from Trump's assassination attempt. I mean, he seemed bulletproof, literally, after that. And, you know, but people got so energized by the fact that this happened, which to me reflects the whole problem. Why are people excited that somebody, I mean, I'm excited, not excited, but I'm happy it didn't happen. But why are people excited for an individual as a candidate that he survived an assassination attempt? It doesn't have anything to do with policy. It doesn't have anything to do with anything except a negative thing occurred that somebody got through. That's
well, and Francis, I want to ask you about this. I want to ask you about this because I feel like this is a double-edged sword with regards to Trump. Okay, there's a part of me. I'm a MAGA conservative. I appreciate the direction of the conservative movement that's now gone America first, and I'm against. I was a neocon. I'm now no longer a neocon. Okay, so I like Trump, but here's the double-edged sword with Trump that I feel personally, and I just want to ask you about it. One, I love the fact he's a fighter. I think that we do have a deep state. We have too many bureaucrats in the federal government that actually run this country, and it's not right, and it needs to be addressed. And I love the fact that he goes into a room and swings elbows against the deep state. But I'll be honest with you, I get tired of the drama. I just like with everything going on in my life, right? I've got 4 kids. I'm trying to pay for their schooling. We're trying to get them to football practice and soccer and all the things that are just crazy going on in our lives, trying to make ends meet. And when I turn on the news and I just watch him and the media go back and forth and fight stuff, there's so much of it that I just get tired. And I'm just like, this doesn't help me. This is just like baloney. It's just BS. So that's where I feel like it's a double-edged sword. I love the fact that he fights, and then there are just moments where I'm just kind of tired of the drama. What do you think?
I have 2 observations on this, Jeff. Is that first of all, I don't believe that Trump is a fighter. I think that he is somebody who, if he ever was, I think he's a yapper, is what he is. He's the guy who gets you into a fight in a bar and then runs out. That's him. He's not a real fighter. He's not a fighter. He's not somebody who ever actually put up or shut up. But regardless, he has that persona. I get it. The problem is you're 100% right. He does not, and he cannot seem to stick on policy issues, no matter who's coaching him. He is drama. He brings drama everywhere you go, and it brings nothing to the actual issues.
And is that, I don't think that's just a pure condemnation of him. I think that has a lot to do with the media. Like, it's amazing. You watch this like light switch, but when the media has to deal with Joe Biden, it's this love affair. It's what's your favorite ice cream. It's nice softball questions. Same thing with Kamala Harris.
True.
And then there's like this light switch, and they have this visceral attack mentality against Donald Trump. I don't blame him for defending himself. So I think it's just as much a condemnation of the drama he puts us in as much as it is the media, if not more so the media. But I sit there and I'm looking at 4 more years. 4 more years. I'm going to deal with, I think under Trump, a better economy, an attack on the deep state. I don't think we're going to get in as many foreign wars as we would under Joe Biden. I'm looking at that, but I'm also, there's a part of me, and I'm just being honest, that's going to go 4 years of the media and Trump just at each other's throats, and it's going to get old.
Correct. I 100% agree. And I think you're right. We don't give enough responsibility or assign enough responsibility to the media as part of this, because they absolutely feed off of that negativity. They hate Trump. They want to diss him every chance they can. And it's partly because of, like you said, I think there is an element. I don't think it's like conspiracy theory of a deep state. There's an element of the deep state. And I think the media is an arm of that. It's like an appendage that goes with it. It feeds it.
Yes.
And so
that's right.
Yeah, I don't want 4 more. It's so hard. This election is so hard because Harris is just paper thin. I don't think she has an intellectual capacity to handle the job. But at the same time, I don't think Trump has an emotional capacity to handle the job. I mean, he did it 4 years earlier, but did he do it well? I'm not sure. I mean, and I honestly, look, I'd like everybody to honestly just look at economics enough to understand that a president has so little to do with it. It's ebbs and flows, and policy can have a little bit of an effect, But if you're thinking a president is going to turn the economy around, you're crazy. It's whatever. King John offering the tide not to rise. It doesn't have anything to do with it. We're dealing with effects of things from years ago now. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with baby boomers, cashing out and retiring and getting Social Security. We're dealing with stimulus package stuff. That's what's inflation now. That's what happened. This is what we're dealing with.
Francis, I really appreciate the call. Thanks so much for the great conversation. Francis's line will be open 303-696-1971. Billy, why don't you tell us about Balanced Well Space?
Yeah, I got to talk to you about sleep. And my sleep and lack thereof, per se, because it's been really, really rough for me for years. I don't really get more than 5 or 6 hours in any night at all. And most of the time, it's fitful. I don't get the full 90 minutes of REM sleep, but I found a medical team that is changing everything. Balance Well Space. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. It's not sleep therapy. They're fixing the stuff that hurts me. Here's the problem. I got a really, really bad shoulder. My lower back, bottom two vertebrae are fusing together. Constant pain on a daily basis. I've got a torn meniscus in my left knee. I've got torn ligaments in my ankles. It's a long list. We don't have time for it. But Balance Well Space and the medical team there is making incredible changes in my life. Here's what makes them different. It's integrative medicine. Everything is under one roof. Balance Well Space has a brand new facility in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, plenty of parking, and inside, chiropractor, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and a bunch of other fancy advanced modalities that I can't pronounce. But it's a long list, and the neat thing is, one appointment, everything is taken care of. After the show today, I'm going back over to see them. We're going to do some trigger point injections in my back, do a little bit of traction on my knee. I'm thinking we're going to start doing some regenerative care on my knee as well today. And I need an adjustment in my neck because I have 3 herniated discs up there as well. Again, I told you, it's a long list of stuff that's broken, not just my brain. But balancewellspace.com is putting me back together, and I feel younger. I'm talking 10, 15 years younger. I slept 10 hours. Last Friday into Saturday, I haven't done that since college. That's crazy. Even my wife mentioned, wow, look at this. She's also talking about how I seem more energetic. I'm moving around better. She's also saying that I'm not complaining. I don't have that, when you're getting up off the couch. I don't sit down and go, yeah, it was getting real old. I thought pain was just going to be a constant in my life. What Balance Well Space, the team of Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, everybody over there can do with things like neuropathy is nothing short of remarkable. Talk to them about the pain you're having. They will create a custom plan just for you. You sit down, they examine you, you tell them what's wrong, they poke, they prod, they take the pictures, everything. Then they put together a custom treatment plan that is targeted at your pain, your discomfort, and also your goals. What do you want to be able to do? They're going to make it happen. Also, they get together and they talk every couple of weeks about you and they reevaluate your progress. When's the last time that your medical team, all the doctors that are dealing with you, talked about you? Yeah, I'll wait. And wait. And wait. They don't. They don't. That's the issue. This is a team that talks about you regularly, reevaluates where your progress is, and then makes changes as needed because, again, this is about making you feel better. Check them out, balancewellspace.com, right in Lowry across from Hangar 2, brand new offices. I love the fact that there's plenty of parking and lots of shady trees. I try to find my place parking under the shady tree every day. I'm going to be searching around that parking lot today because there's about 6 trees. They're fantastic. Balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. I want them to make the changes in your life that they are making in mine. Balancewellspace.com. Thanks, Jeff.
I'm glad to see you're getting the treatment and care that you deserve, Billy boy.
I'm sleeping, man. That's the crazy part. I didn't think it was going to be like that. I'd toss and turn all the time. I'd be on my right shoulder and it would hurt after about a half an hour. I'd have to switch back over, and then I've got those discs in my back that are gone. Then my back hurts and I got to flip over, and then my knee hurts, and then and then I'm keeping my wife awake because now I'm spinning the entire time in bed, and that's a fun conversation. You know how that is. So
it does. It affects everybody.
It does, man.
Well, we'll continue the conversation about Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, who's going to win the poll and all that. Brian, you'll be up next. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Is Kamala Harris campaigning from her basement? Well, ish, similar to the way Joe Biden did in 2020, staying away. Very, very many big rallies, at least compared to Donald Trump, but it still delivered a victory for Biden in 2020. Do you think Kamala Harris has taken the same playbook? Look, I think she's incredibly weak in front of the media. She's not good on her feet, especially if she faces challenging questions. You've all heard the audio before where she's asked about something like, how does AI work or the cloud? And she just disappears into kind of rambling statements that kind of mirror each other over and over and over again. So I think they're going to try to install her as the president. I don't think she's going to win an election by compelling the most people to vote for her. But prove me wrong. Let's go to the phone lines. Brian, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. I'm not an economist, but I do read. There's a lisep.org. Challenge everyone to go. There's a true unemployment rate, and that takes the Labor Bureau statistics mixed with people that have a full-time job, which is 35 hours a week, people that don't have a job, and people that make less than $20,000 annually. And that rate is 25%. It's 24.5%.
Wow.
Now, if you take that based on Trump's first 2 years, that was at 17%, going and trending down. So absolutely, if you just take the labor statistics, you can't just take that into account. I don't want to judge Trump on his last 2 years or Biden on his first 2 years because we had the COVID pandemic, and but now we can judge him on those two things. You have a clear contrast of what the first 2 years of Trump looked like and what the last 2 years of Biden looked like, and anyone can make that comparison. And to say that policy doesn't affect the economy, listen to Larry Kudlow for the last 50 years. It's based on consumer spending and business investment. That's GPD. Yep. Those policy absolutely affects those two things. So to say the president has nothing to do with the economy is false. Absolutely false.
Then why is GDP averages higher under Biden than they are under Trump during that same period of time? If it's the Trump policies.
Yeah, if you're just going on labor statistics and you're just going on
No, I'm referring to GDP. No, I'm talking about GDP because that's what you referenced. You talked about Kudlow and him talking about what makes up GDP, and the average GDP is greater under Biden than it is under Trump. I'm not sitting here advocating for Biden versus Trump. I'm just putting the information on the table that the GDP averages are higher under Biden than they are under Trump, either during the 2-year period you want to look at or an entire 4-year period.
Consumer spending and business investment is up more than under Biden than it is Trump?
Yes, the GDP percentage is, the rise in the GDP is higher. Yes, over the course of the average. Yes, in fact, we're almost at 3% right now. And Trump never got, I think he got one when they did tax cut. I think he crested towards 4, but never had anything over 2.6. And Biden has consistently averaged over that during his presidency. Again, just the numbers. I'm not sitting here advocating one way or the other. I'm just saying those are the numbers. And that's part of when we talk about economic pain, Brian, that's part of the problem when we have record profits from corporations. We have record highs inside of the stock market. You're right that the average consumer is feeling economic pain, but the larger indicators in the economy do not show that.
Yeah, and again, wherever you're getting your statistics like the GPD percentages, I remember in Obama's second term, when he was running for his second term, the Labor Department changed the way that they calculated unemployment so it could drop below 5% because no president was ever elected under that. I don't know if they've made those changes, but again, you've got to look at independent
we can't assume that,
institutes.
Right, we can't assume that all independent institutions still show the same thing, man. They still show the same thing on GDP. Because I'm focusing on that. You're focused on economy and unemployment. I acknowledge your point on that. That's fine. That yes, the numbers are played with funny as far as unemployment, but they're played with funny under both administrations, both the numbers you got under Trump and the administration you got under Biden. Yes, and so I will concede that. But you're the one that brought up GDP, and the averages are higher under Biden, regardless of the measuring and who's doing it. That's what's happening. Yeah. Again, but not advocating for
policy
Biden.
Wonks. Most voters aren't policy wonks.
Yeah,
like
not
you
at
and
all.
Me.
Yeah,
and so that's why it's not going to make a difference. You could just the next point I'll make is Tampon Tim running for vice president and wants tampons in every boys' bathroom in public school. You've got him saying he's the transgender sanctuary in Minnesota for kids who want to mutilate themselves over confusion and not let their parents know. You've got all these things. He wants to buy ladders for everyone to get over the wall with immigration.
Actually, he didn't do that with the ladder thing. The ladder thing has been taken a little bit out of context. I did some diving into that, and what it was is he said that if we're going to build a wall this high, he said the smartest thing to do is invest in a ladder company that is 5 feet taller. He wasn't sitting there saying, I'm going to give the illegals ladders in order to get over the border. And he's just said, if you're going to build a wall, you can build ladders taller. He just was pointing out some of the idiocy contained inside of the statement. And the thing that you brought up about the tampons was interesting. I dove into that a little bit yesterday afternoon. I didn't have too much free time, but I discovered that the bill that Walz signed did not say put tampons in boys' bathrooms. It said put those in public school bathrooms. It didn't delineate between male and female. And some have come out and said, well, now we have to put them in boys' bathrooms. They've been advocates, but there's nothing contained inside the bill, nor is there anything in anything that Tim Walz said that now we're going to be putting these things in the boys' bathrooms.
If that's similar to the Colorado bill, it's going to mandate them in all bathrooms. Which is why you get the critique that it's boys' bathrooms.
Oh, I know. But the thing is, he signed the bill, but he's also not responsible for the legislation. And it's difficult to sit there and say, I know that's the legislature inside of Minnesota.
The governor is the one that runs the legislative agenda in the House and the Senate, because at the end of the day, if they're not coordinating together as a party, they're not going to get anything through. Same thing happens in Colorado. Jared Polis is like, these are the bills I want to see in front of me.
Yeah, and he does push
and
back
the Senate
on others.
Go, yes, sir, and they show up with the bills.
Yeah, but it's not always the language he wants.
Publicly.
Not always the language he
the
wants,
fact
though.
They're considering that is pretty ridiculous. And again, it's just the contrast. Do you want men in women's sports? Do you want boys competing against girls? Do you want men in women's bathrooms? Do you want boys in girls' bathrooms? The majority of the country doesn't want that.
I agree with you, Brian. And the reason why is it just seems so secondary, third tier, fourth tier to what people are actually struggling with. You're like, that's what we're going to spend our time in government doing. All right, we're just out of time. Brian, I appreciate the call. Man. We'll continue this. Brian's line will be open 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, providing all the election coverage you need for the 2024 presidential election, plus all the local and state races as well. You're going to want to stick with us throughout the entire election season. A lot of polls right now, including Real Clear Politics, showing that Kamala has had quite a bounce since she got in. Do you think that's attributed to just kind of Democrat malaise over the years with regards to Joe Biden, everybody knowing that this guy was a disaster, just not wanting to admit it, and just hoping that we might get through and not have Donald Trump as president? Or is this legitimate? Like, does the electorate really get excited about her? I don't know if that's the case. I mean, look, I've tried to win presidential elections, Bill, on policy before.
Yeah.
I thought that Obama's policies were terrible for the country. And here we had, Mitt Romney was this great business leader, and he'd run a state, and he had solved the Olympics. And so you had leadership qualities, and you had policy and all that stuff. And there's nothing to really hate about Mitt Romney, right? If you go back and think about 2012, and then the electorate just kind of came out and said, we're going to give Barry 4 more years. This is why I don't want to totally discount Kamala and be like, well, it's going to be a landslide. Trump's going to win big, 50 state victory, Walter Mondale, Reagan-esque like victory. I just, the systems and the machines are so big these days that I don't think Kamala Harris is particularly intelligent. I don't think she has good policies. Obviously, she was good enough to get elected in a competitive state. As far as a Democrat primary competitive goes, every Democrat wants to be a senator of California, for instance. So she was able to navigate that. She was able to win. So there's part of me that doesn't think she's particularly compelling, but I don't want to totally dismiss her either. I think she could win. Do you really think that Kamala Harris can be the president of the United States, Bill?
You
think she could win?
Yeah, I do, because of people we've elected in other offices. Yes, absolutely. And I'll go back to kind of closing the circle to something we started with a little bit earlier. The largest advantage that she has is not the pro-Kamala faction. It's the anti-Trump faction. That's the solid base that if it's going to get her over the line, they'll do it.
Wow. Well, there's a lot to continue to talk about, and want to get into these Venezuela gangs harming the city of Denver and Aurora. We're going to cover that and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Sometimes it's pretty crazy, too. It's the greatest, it's a beautiful morning, the greatest country in history. And we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. After the news, I want to get into this conversation about the Denver jewelry heist that took place back in June. I don't know if you saw the video. This was crazy. There's two ladies managing the counter at a jewelry store. They speak primarily Spanish, are attacked by this Venezuelan gang. They rush in, they pistol whip them, they smash and grab out gold chains and jewelry, all that stuff. Gang has Venezuelan ties. And if you remember our conversation last week, we hosted John Fabricatori. He's running for Congress in Congressional District 6 to replace Jason Crow. Well, he was pointing out this rise in gang violence taking place as a result of this Venezuelan gang now coming into America, and they had greenlit. Remember, this was wild. They greenlit the attacking of police officers. Well, now they're robbing jewelry stores. Homeland Security, ICE, Denver police, all involved in trying to stop them. And some Denver media outlets kind of hiding the truth about this. We're going to provide some more detailed coverage and analysis. You're not going to want to miss it. But bottom line, Fabricatori was right. This is becoming a bigger issue, and the politicians and the media are covering up for them. So we'll get into this and more, but let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 63 and cloudy, expecting a high of 76 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
There's a balance to be.
That probably sounds horrible, doesn't it, Billy? Okay, you know what? I'm going to refresh this. But the top story is Kamala Harris, or Kamala Khan, avoiding the media and avoiding real live questions from journalists. The machine is controlling the cackler.
Okay.
And they'll...
Blake. Okay,
yes,
I got to tell you, man. This afternoon after the show, you have to go copyright Kamala Khan. You have
I
to.
knew you would like that.
You have to. That is freaking brilliant, because
thank you.
Because every time she shows up at an event, it's the Kamala Khan convention, but there's a double entendre that is laid in there. That, my friend, high five.
Thank you.
Yes, that is excellent.
Oh
man, I want that on
you
t-shirt.
are such a pro, dude, for so many reasons.
Now you're ruining my reputation. Get back to the news. Stop that.
And plus, and you know what you did? You allowed me to refresh my soundboard here.
Exactly.
All right, top story.
And as a woman, there's a balance to be struck between being tough and being turn that off.
I can't imagine why anyone would be turned off by her. I really can't.
That cackle would get me out of bed better than the worst fire alarm. I would literally jump up. I would jump up out of bed wondering what is going on in the world if that was my alarm clock.
I would be so productive. I really would. I would sprint out of there so quickly. The machine is controlling the cackler, and they'll ride this as long as they can. Hey, and just in case you didn't hear this, check out this second grader talk about his favorite candidate. Just too cute. His name is Ben.
You know, it's going to be the first woman president. And that's incredibly exciting. And, you know, she's Indian, she's black, she's everything. You can be more than one thing. It's incredible. You know, I'm Jewish and Irish. I wish I was black. Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black. I want just a decent person in the White House, you know, a person who cares about democracy more than themselves, who doesn't lie, who's not fomenting anger and rage, someone who cares about, you know, about people. And that's what Kamala Harris does. She's like a human being. She acts like a human being, and she has empathy and she has humor, and it's beautiful when she laughs because she's a real person.
His name is Ben Stiller, and he wants to be an actor when he grows
way.
up. Yeah.
Wait, that was Ben Stiller, the actor? No way. Seriously?
You didn't hear that? No way. You didn't hear it?
I couldn't tell it. Well, now that I think about it, I was so
Ben
caught up in
Stiller.
what they were saying.
Yeah, that was Ben Stiller. Like 2 days ago, they had a whole bunch of comedians and actors, because we really care about what they have to say.
But Blake, that actually, so I've been thinking about this theory of something that's happening right now, and that audio was perfect, and it demonstrates we're actually going through, I think, a very dramatic shift in our understanding of race right now, and we're now moving race into the category of ethnicity, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Look, we used to kind of give a lot of credence to, like, if you're Polish or if you're Italian or if you're Scottish or Irish, right? Like in this country, like it was like, you're Irish, you have this type of mentality, or you're Polish or stuff.
Jokes.
right. Yeah. And now everybody's moved past it. Nobody cares.
Right.
Now, but now I've watched people talk about race in a very similar way. And Ben because you have to, if you believe that Kamala Harris is both going to be the first Indian president and the first Black president, then you have to treat it more like an ethnicity than an actual, like, skin color, right? And because if you do that with Kamala, then Barack Obama was both the first Black president and a white president, and you just kind of go, well, that doesn't make a lot of logical sense. If you're both at the same time a white president and a Black president. And then so people in this country are moving towards this notion of race being a little bit like ethnicity, because you have to treat it like that if Kamala is going to be both Indian and Black. And then when you play that audio and Ben Stiller goes, well, I'm Jewish, but I'm also white, and people are stupid, and I'm really dumb. But people we're moving that direction.
It is,
which is unique and interesting.
Right. It is, and it's the accomplishment of the left and communists. I mean,
and it has nothing to do with anyone's actual ideology. It's just random ethnicities, and you're like,
it is irrelevant.
I don't know how being Italian makes you a better president, but maybe it does. I don't know.
But there would be and could be and will be a great Italian. Whatever. I mean, I'm Norwegian and have English. So what? I mean,
exactly.
Fool.
Exactly.
It's a freaking fool. I'm Jewish.
Yes.
I've always wanted to be Black. Good. You know what? When I was 10 years old, I wanted to be David Thompson. Okay. He was Black. All right. And played for the Nuggets. Everybody I wanted to be Otis Armstrong. So what? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Clowns. So sick of you. I mean, that's why I love Prager, because he talks about the diversity of thought and not. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we had a small group for a long time, 10, 12, 15 years. I don't know. But, you got to the point, and really after about the first, 2 weeks, you would really have to sit around the room and go, wow. Yeah, there are a lot of ethnicities in here. We have white, black, brown, half white, half black, brown. I mean, everybody. That's what America is about. But it's diversity.
And Blake, to your point, that really, I think, only happens in America. Sorry, there's not a lot of
absolutely
cultural and racial diversity in China.
No.
And Ghana.
No, or Dominican Republic, for example. I always tell my wife
Norway.
Norway.
Yeah,
Sweden,
no. This
whatever.
is a place where you are judged on the content of your character.
Yes,
That's what matters.
Absolutely. So it's just stupid. So all right. I've taken up all your time. Let me see. Let's throw this in there. Her running mate is Tim Walz. The freak show. He bailed on his National Guard battalion before they were deployed to Iraq, and they will never forget.
My idea is he probably knew he wasn't a good leader and he wanted to do something else. And what we did get a really good leader with Command Sergeant Behrens, and he saved a lot of lives over there. He led squads when he wasn't sure if they could handle it. So he actually went out and led squads out into the deal. He found the artillery they were shooting at us. And then when I see the leadership that Walz offered to Minnesota with burning the city down and the rules during COVID, what he did, I'm thankful he didn't come over there, or we'd have brought back a lot more body bags. Tom Barron's, he saved a lot of lives for us by being a good leader.
That's a great point. Hey, Senator Ron Johnson, he's doing a great job working hard to try to get to the truth about the assassination attempt of former President Trump. The media trying to just brush it under, sweep it under the rug. Whistleblowers emerging now from the Secret Service, which is the best thing that can happen for the American people.
It's been 2 weeks since Acting Director Rowe told senators in that hearing that we would be having access to Secret Service personnel for transcribed interviews in days, not weeks. We're hopeful that next week it'll happen. That's 2 weeks since he testified. But the bottom line is, I think what our investigation in the end will be is an investigation of the investigation. That's sad.
Boy, that is the truth. 3 Denver police officers fired for texts about illegal immigrants. The department says they were disparaging comments in a group text. Hey, the Quarry fire is now 100% contained, and the Alexander Mountain fire 91% contained. The U.S. with 94 total medals so far in the Olympics. They added 8 on a Wednesday. The Rockies lose 5-3 to the Mets, but you can go out to Coors Field today. And first pitch at 1:10. Hopefully there won't be any rain. Getaway day today in Lodo. 60 in Aurora, 61 in Arvada, and 63 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It is Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Upslope conditions behind a cold front mean much cooler weather for Denver today and tomorrow. Highs only 60s and low 70s with areas of low clouds, patchy fog, and rain showers, and a few afternoon thunderstorms. Some rain showers and some thunder tonight, mid-50s, only reaching the low 70s Friday. Cloudy, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Warmer for the weekend with afternoon and evening thunderstorms, highs 80s. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You know, a great account to follow if you want to get actually unfiltered news about the city of Denver is Do Better Denver. I'm sure they're probably not going to get everything right, but they actually provide a lot of good analysis of what's happening in the city of Denver. And they were covering this issue about the growth of these Venezuelan gangs in the city of Denver. And then John Fabricatori joined us last week to talk about it as well. And not a lot of media was covering it. In fact, there was concerns that a Venezuelan gang was starting to take over an apartment complex. And Channel 9 went out there and said, no. It's just being condemned because of a poor management by the management company. Has nothing to do with Venezuelan. No, well, maybe there's a Venezuelan gang. And then the Do Better Denver was showing video from some of the security of these Venezuelan gangs kicking in doors and taking control of different apartment complexes. So there's a lot there that I don't think is getting covered. But in June, there was this jewelry store robbery in Denver. And this is finally getting some media coverage, both Daily Mail and the Gazette, as well as Fox 31 picking it up. Shocking truth of huge male gang seen looting fistful of gold from Denver jewelry store at gunpoint as terrified female staff look on. A gang of thieves, this is from the Daily Mail, so at least we'll get some good reporting coverage coming from England. A gang of thieves has been identified after shocking footage showed them violently loot a Denver jewelry store within minutes as terrified staff cowered in fear. Days after the smash and grab crime, officials have laid the blame on the infamous Billy, you're going to have to help me with the Spanish translation here. Tren de Aragua gang.
I'm gonna have to go
Anyways,
look at it
it's the largest criminal organization in Venezuela. 7 males are still being sought over the heist. However, one suspect, Jean Torres Roman, 21, has been arrested last week by Homeland Security. The Federal Bureau said it caught Roman in New Mexico before handing him off to the Denver County Sheriff's Department. He was charged with a slew of crimes, including attempted aggravated robbery and attempted murder. We're getting the very best and brightest coming in here. Experts have warned that the Venezuelan gang, which is believed to have over 5,000 members nationwide, has gained a foothold in America by taking advantage of the migrant crisis. The gang is known for ruthless killings and sparking chaos in South America, but recently set up its new headquarters in Texas. As members pour over the border, criminals associated with the gang have now seemingly spread throughout the nation, with the El Paso Division of Homeland Security Investigations tweeting this over the weekend over the arrest of Ronan. The Bureau shared an image of the suspect in a red prison jumpsuit and chains, noting his alleged gang affiliation and a role in the June 24 jewelry heist. Homeland Security said Ronan is a Venezuelan national and passed him to Denver law enforcement to face charges over the jewelry heist. So what happens in this video is pretty wild. This happened back in June. So to get in the store, you have to go through this initial security gate, right, where they can kind of control that. And you have 2 ladies dressed in red that work at the store, and they're Spanish speaking themselves. So that in some of the interviews that have taken place in Denver News, they have to translate. The ladies let these guys in, and then the guns come out. And as the guns come out, the ladies race into the back to try to lock themselves in the office. They can't get there in time. The gang members shove the door open and then pistol whip these 2 ladies and then smash and grab and take a bunch of gold out of this jewelry store. So, Denver Mayor Mike Johnston over the weekend talking about this, saying he's had a conversation with the Denver Police Department.
Oh, they've talked. Wow.
They have.
That's great. That's wonderful. I'm sure that every teacher that is listening understands that how strong that is when you say that the child is acting out and becoming a problem in class, and the parent says, we've talked to them. I'm sure you take a whole bunch of comfort in the idea that, yes, obviously, since we've had this conversation, the behavior is going to change. No, it's not. No.
And here's the statement. And I want to just, Billy, I want you to think about this statement in light of Danielle Jurinsky and the direction that those conservative members of the city council in Aurora have taken that city. Okay. And everything that Mike Johnston's done, just think about the money going to illegal immigrants in the city, the debit cards, the free lawyers, the workforce training, even 6 months of apartment covered by the mayor. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's his statement. Protecting the safety of residents and our officers is always our first priority. Spokesperson for the mayor's office said the mayor is in close contact with the Denver police chief about this topic and is committed to holding anybody involved in criminal activity accountable.
In other words, just politics. Yeah. And that's just a perfect politician answer. I can say stuff.
I mean, it is that is exactly right.
Yeah, that's boilerplate crap.
It is to allow the media to say they got comment, for people to read it and feel like the mayor is good, but there's no actual direction there.
Yeah, I'm not telling
there's
you
no
anything.
Priority of resources. There's no frustration. No. There is no willingness to admit that maybe hanging a giant banner outside the city of Denver that said, "We heart immigrants." Well, not all immigrants are, violent criminal Venezuelan gang members, but maybe taking that tact might allow some of those guys to get in here.
Yeah. And maybe not coming out and having a strong statement about this behavior and these gangs not being allowed in Denver, we are going to show them that this behavior is not going to continue, regardless of how, why, or what you use to get here. That would be a very strong statement. The problem I really have in the statement from the Johnston office is the idea that we're going to hold everybody that commits a crime accountable. Really? Really? That's the strong statement that you're going to make. The strong statement that you're using to address what's going on in a very specific instance is, we're going to hold everybody responsible for the bad things they do. All of them. All of them. Really? You can't deal with the issue. You're not going to talk about the issue. You're not going to point out what you're going to do to fix the issue. You're just going to say, we always hold the bad guys responsible. Come on.
Bill, that would admit making a mistake, which we know politicians don't want to do. I want you to hear, this is what happened to these two ladies.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is awful. Yeah.
My whole head was dripping with blood from the back, Tina said in Spanish. Same as my niece. She grabbed, I don't know, a napkin, and she would put the napkin on, and we would see how it bled. A lot of blood was coming out. Tina said she feared that moment would be her last. In that moment, you think that if he felt like it, he would pull the trigger and that would be it.
Yeah.
By the way, I looked up these two ladies to see if we could get in contact with them.
Yeah.
And I found a totally secondary article. I mean, it had nothing to do with this.
Really? Yeah.
And it had to do with the great things these young ladies are doing. And it was written by the Archdiocese of Denver.
Oh, wow.
For some of their work and contribution to giving back to the community. So it had nothing to do with this. In fact, this was written before all this had happened. Here you have two Catholic Spanish ladies that were beat, feared for their lives because of these Venezuelan gangs. And you know, Billy, I was sitting here thinking about our conversation with John Fabricatore last week.
Yeah.
And it just made me love that guy even more because this guy was on top of it. He not only had the resources and the connections to know that this stuff was happening, but he was also brave enough to willing to come out and talk about it, even though some media outlets are kind of hiding this stuff. Do Better Denver was willing to step out on this. Danielle Jurinsky were willing to step out on this. And then remember, they had the big Venezuelan 4,000 person Target gathering that took place last week.
And this is something as well that people in CD6, you know, when I get behind this microphone, I don't want to endorse one candidate over another. But I would say that voters should take into account the understanding and the experience that Fabricatore has dealing with this issue. He identified the problem immediately. He knew where the problem was coming from. He knows the mechanism for how they are getting here, and he accurately predicted their behavior when they arrived. That is just something, however you're going to vote, if you're in CD6, I feel you should take into account if this is important to you. Okay, I think I did that okay. Okay, I think so. I think we did okay without doing that.
You're great.
Yeah.
I want to bring up this editorial. We pulled it last week. We didn't get to it, but it was an editorial written in Spanish in the city of Aurora after you had all the kind of Target stuff that happened last week, where 4,000 people gathered. And then Fabricatore last week also pointed this out. And this is really, this is probably the most important thing out there about all this. This same gang that's robbed the jewelry store, created these problems, has targeted law enforcement and greenlit their members to shoot at and kill law enforcement in America.
Yeah, because
this gang that now has its headquarters in Texas because of Biden-Harris's illegal immigration policies have moved up here, have now greenlit law enforcement.
Yeah, because they need to establish territory, and they need to take out some law enforcement officers as a warning that, you know, this is how we deal with you, that we are going to approach you. And the difficulty for the law enforcement officers, as they'll tell you, is they have to wear a uniform, so they're easy to see more times than not, when the gang members can blend into any crowd. And one of the things I want to bring up real quick is when Fabricatore was in with us, one of the questions he had was when we had that great, huge gathering in the parking lot here, the Target in Aurora, he asked a very, very poignant question about the celebration going on because Maduro had been declared the winner. And he's like, if they're celebrating and they like Maduro's policies, then why are they here? Why aren't they back home living under the guy they support? And if they're supporting the opposition party, then why aren't they back at home working for the opposition party in order to change the system that they seem to be so happy should be changing? That is a wonderful question from John Fabricatore about the why they are here. It's a great question. And I wish someone would answer it for me, because it does beg the question of, if they're really so excited about whatever is going on in the elections, why aren't you home?
Yeah,
Why aren't
right.
you?
Right.
Yeah.
Fixing that part.
Why not?
Because it's part of your culture.
Yeah.
I mean, why not change that country? But I did want to bring this up because
please.
I felt this op-ed was amazing. We didn't get to it yesterday or last week because of all of the other news that was breaking, but this is from an outlet called El Comercio del Colorado, and you have to use Google Translate to read it. Right. So this is by the community for the community type of thing, by the Spanish community for the Spanish community. Here's the editorial from the newspaper. And by the way, I outreached to them, didn't hear back, and I imagine this is just because of maybe a language difference, but try to get them on the show.
Yeah, gringo. There it is.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
But this is how bad I am at Spanish.
Yeah.
People used to call me El Jefe. I thought that was Spanish for Jeff.
Oh, that's funny.
So when I finally took a mission trip to Mexico and someone said, ¿Cómo se llamo? I said, El Jefe.
Yeah.
And they all went, "Oh, El Jefe," and saluted me and
yes, exactly.
razzed me for the rest of the mission.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Right. Organizers of Venezuelan gathering in Aurora should be punished. This is from a Spanish newspaper.
That's how they open.
Think about how 9 News and the rest of them all glossed over what happened.
Yeah. People
Today
were excited. They were celebrating.
Right,
yeah, that's exactly the story you got. Yeah.
Today, we must address the unfortunate incident that occurred in the city of Aurora on Sunday, July 28th. On that day, approximately 4,000 people, according to data from the Aurora police, gathered in a parking lot at the Target store on Havana Street and Mississippi Avenue. At some point in the afternoon and evening, most of the crowd, though possibly not all, began to behave in a lawless manner, as reported by witnesses who were present and had to leave the area. Gunshots were fired into the air. Alcohol was consumed in industrial quantities. Their words, not mine.
Industrial. Wow.
I know.
Wow.
That must have been quite a party.
Yeah.
And possibly other substances were involved. The behavior resulted in such a large movement of cars that it hindered access for customers of a nearby commercial establishments. These establishments, including the Target store, had to close their doors upon witnessing the mass, most uncivilized behavior, fearing looting or property damage. Consequently, all surrounding stores had to close. The closure resulted in significant loss of sales on Sunday afternoon. Imagine the impact on businesses like McDonald's, Target, other restaurants. Beyond the financial loss, there was trauma and a sense of insecurity from both employees and customers. Do you think that was justified? Unfortunately, it is disheartening to say that a majority of those involved were Venezuelans who completely misunderstood the concept of gathering. And then they go on to say, Aurora must hold accountable those who organized this gathering.
Wow.
First thing to do is to identify and point out those responsible. We do not know exactly who organized it, but they can be traced through social networks. They likely live in Aurora. I mean, and then they say those who behaved badly at the event were also responsible. I demand the city authorities locate those individuals and apply the appropriate sanctions. This incident cannot go unpunished. Think about that. Wow. From the own or at least from the Spanish community, but likely with Venezuelan connections, critiquing their own community versus the pass that news agencies like 9 News gave that gathering, and everybody else, except for John Fabricatore and Danielle Jurinsky.
Yeah, almost nobody's out there talking about how to identify the people responsible for this and the people that acted a fool.
And punish them and stand up. And this is a bad reflection on our community.
And you think we can't do that? I would refer, and again, it's a difficult reference, but I would refer everybody to January 6th. Regardless
I was about to say,
regardless of what you feel about it.
They found everybody.
Yes, they went back through social media and they even enlisted average citizens. One of the smartest things for the city of Aurora and the city of Denver is to put out an outreach right now and say, on social media, can you help us identify who these people were? They're celebrating. They're obviously going to take pictures and videos of what they're doing. On a side note, I often do this on my FM radio shows. When we get into something where someone has videotaped themselves breaking into a house or videotaped themselves with all the drugs, I always do this little segment and say, yep, I go, okay, kids, let's remind ourselves. Do not take pictures of video of your illegal activities, and God forbid, do never post them online. Now we can continue. It's just a good reminder. So I do that often because of stuff like this, but we should be leaning into that. They obviously will be celebrating and taking pictures and video of what they did. The community should be coming together and coming after these people, but we need direction. We need direction from the police departments. We need direction from our city leaders, because think about how much it builds a community inside of Aurora and Denver when all of us get together and say, shame, we don't accept this. And it doesn't matter if you're, it doesn't matter if you're being pulled over by the police officer or not. We are all going to be watching out for you. And we, the community, is not going to tolerate this behavior from you. We need that. We need that.
I just appreciate when the community stands up against itself sometimes, right? And I mean, El Comercio, I don't know their background at all, but listen to this final message it sends. Okay. I leave 2 messages. Those identified as organizers must be sanctioned, and the police must reflect on their response to prevent such situations in the future. This is a matter for public discussion. We must continue talking about these issues and learning from them. It is important to prevent such events and ensure that citizens know how to react in similar situations. We trust the Aurora Police to act appropriately to avoid such incidents. If action is required, the community is ready to support and understand what needs to be done. We will continue to discuss this issue, but I leave it for your reflection. Wow. So that is a Spanish newspaper writing to Spanish-speaking people in Aurora saying, be accountable, don't act this way.
Yeah.
And when you compare that to white liberals who didn't even want to cover the issue, and when they did, it was like, oh, it's just a celebration.
Yeah, it was a celebration.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and I really appreciate them leaning into the idea of all the businesses that had to close in the area.
Yeah,
and that I think is something that is lost in the discussion, but it should be something that is highlighted inside of the discussion. And here's the reason: this is a Sunday afternoon into the evening, and they blocked off the parking lot, and it became unsafe for people to get into the parking lot, and they could not navigate to the stores where they wanted to go. This is why that's important. Think of your behavior on a Saturday and a Sunday. When you get in your car, leave your house in your neighborhood, 80% of the time, you're going somewhere to spend money. It's consumerism. The idea of this large gathering shutting down 2 of the most profitable days for most of those businesses because of foot traffic is not acceptable. It shouldn't be acceptable. That is an economic impact that is unfair to each and every one of those businesses and each and every one of those employees. Those businesses either had to pay those people the rest of their shift and not get the work, or they had to cut those people loose early and they didn't get paid for the hours they were counting on to feed their family or themselves or their pets or pay their rent. That's huge. The economic impact of this, we can't really measure at this time, simply because it happened on a Sunday afternoon, one of the 2 busiest days in most businesses. And again, when you leave your house on the weekend, 80% of the time, you're going somewhere to spend cash. Those people, those businesses were denied that opportunity on a Sunday. That's not cool. Just seriously, that's something that's been left behind that really, really annoys me about this, that we're forgetting the impact, not only on the shopper, but also on the business.
Yep.
And it was because a bunch of people got together and acted a fool. It's ridiculous.
Bill, you're exactly right. And got a text message here too. This TDA gang, It's getting dangerous out in Douglas County too. Yeah. So law enforcement, be safe. And for the rest of us, hold our police, or not our police, hold our politicians accountable to making sure that police are protected from these types of gangs. So we're just running out of time. We'll continue this conversation. Feel free to give us a call about it if you've got some thoughts. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. I want to talk to you about my good friends over at QC Kinetics. By the way, great business in Aurora. Went and visited it out there by the old VA, or by the VA center. QC Kinetics is providing a really important service. All right. I've noticed, especially people in my life as they're getting older, as their joints start to fail, they're thinking surgery is the only option, or just living constantly on these pain drugs to deal with it and just be like, well, I've just gotten older. I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. It's not true. And in fact, we have a member of our team right here, Joel, who had back problems, couldn't go more than just maybe a mile or two in a walk without having a back pain. He told me the other day that since he's been going to QC Kinetics, which uses regenerative medicine, he can now hike 5 miles and he has no problems whatsoever. It's like giving you your life back. They can provide an amazing service. Regenerative medicine uses your own body's healing services to get your joints some long-term relief. And it's no downtime, no drugs, no surgery. Revitalize your joints so you can move again. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative, cellular treatments for your achy joints. It really is the future of medicine. You can give them a call at 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit qckinetics.com. They have locations in Aurora, Superior, Colorado Springs, and Highlands Ranch. Great company doing great work. We appreciate their support of this show. Check out qckinetics.com. All right, we'll continue covering what these Venezuelan gangs are doing for the city of Denver and Aurora. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. I bet you did. This me? Oh man. Okay,
this
you
is
open the box.
90s high school,
Yeah,
buddy.
you open the box for me. This is, of course, Goo Goo Dolls' Name. Very, very popular song.
Yeah.
Now, they broke through popularity with Iris, was the really big first one. Name then comes afterwards, and it is the beginning, in my opinion, of their downward slide. They are a totally different
you
band.
were one of those. You liked them before they became popular. You liked
Yeah.
one of those guys?
But again, it was the sound, and it's not about the idea that now they're this. If you go back and the last great album, in my opinion, by Goo Goo Dolls is A Boy Named Goo. You go back and you play that one, and you listen to what they did with Iris and Name. Sounds like two completely different bands. It's almost like if you go back and listen to the first two albums of Maroon 5, and then you listen to the current stuff, and you're like, what happened? Where'd that come from? That's not even close. The Goos were almost punk-ish in their delivery, very alt, very punk. They were more fun. They became much more commercial with Iris and Name. Again, very good. I can't throw rocks at them because they achieved the success they were looking for. But for my taste, Boy Named Goo, that's the last great album. The earlier stuff's fantastic, but if you really want to get into some really interesting stuff and sounds and hear what the Goos sounded like early on, go check that album out. Top to bottom, it is solid. It's a really good album. I was so excited when they released the new one and then went, oh, okay, I get it. I know what we're doing. Fine, okay. They want to make the money. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Can't harm. Can't be mad at them for that. They did what they needed to do to get the big bucks, and they live in a much bigger house than I do. So what am I going to complain?
Dude,
did the girl say yes?
Our listeners.
Yeah. Also, did the girl say yes?
Of course.
Good. Also, okay, got to ask you.
No, it was fun. I think we played it at youth group. I'm not sure it was that song. It was one of Goo Goo
It probably was.
Dolls songs.
It's either Name or Iris. It's either a Name or Iris. Those are the biggest two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the big two.
So, dude, check this out.
Yeah. What?
This is how freaking cool our listeners are, man.
I got text room. Yeah.
Okay. Jesus Sanchez is the editor of the El Comercio de Colorado, Colorado's largest Hispanic community paper.
Yeah.
He is from Venezuela, and he's a good friend of mine.
Dude.
He's the one who wrote the editorial. And I wrote, really? Would love to chat with him. He goes, I can arrange it.
Yes, please. Please.
That is
Give
awesome.
us the hookup. That would be fantastic.
3701. I'm going to call you after the show because this guy seems really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Really interesting. And I don't know his background. I don't know anything about him. I don't know where he stands in other politics, but he took the time to write an editorial calling for, in this case, his own compatriots.
Yeah. This would be
to
really
act like good Americans.
Yeah. Now, it's an amazing editorial that he wrote. And I'm thinking if he likes the relationship and he likes the conversation with us, I would love to check in with him over the course of several weeks and months to talk about the community, to talk about what's going on and impacting his community and what he's hearing and seeing from his readers and listeners that are going to be different than ours. And also would love to have his ideas on both local and national elections as we move forward. It could be a really interesting insight. Please, listener, if you can help us get the hookup. I was going to say something totally inappropriate, but no, I decided not to because I don't want to talk to HR for the second time in 2 weeks. So no, we're not going to say that out loud. That'll stay in here in my head and I'll giggle about it later. But yes, okay. But thank you. Thank you for the offer.
Awesome. We will take you up on that. Thank you, text message person. I don't know if he wants me to use his name. He just gave us his name.
Yeah, no, don't use it on the air.
Maybe I'll protect his identity.
Yes.
But that is cool to be able to connect with him. I was really impressed with that. Speaking of a really cool guy, I've known this guy for well over a decade. This guy is pro-life, pro-America, pro-family. He is with us on all the issues. My friend, Dan Kaplis. That matters because who you choose as a lawyer sends a signal to everybody else involved in the case, your type of values. So if you're out there just chasing or using an ambulance chaser, some guy with billboards, that type of lawyer, you've been hurt in an accident, and you use that kind of guy, well, you're sending a message to everybody involved in the case that maybe you're not as serious. Because Dan Kaplis, he's the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian. As I mentioned, he's with us on the values. He's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in a serious motor vehicle crash. But he is in addition to that, he's a real winner in the courtroom. Dan is the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. He's also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, but he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. And if you need Dan's help, even if you're not in an accident right now, put his phone number in your phone. He'd be my first call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
back to the Jeff and Bill show in the 9 o'clock hour. Did you see this, Billy? The swimmers, the triathletes who had to get into the water in the Seine River in Paris. And this sent me down a rabbit hole, my friend, where I'm reading water analysis of the Southern Platte River, the South Platte River, which runs through Denver.
You need a better hobby.
And I just sat here and I asked myself this question. It's not like it's 1840. It's 2024. Why aren't our rivers clean? Why aren't they? Do we have companies just dumping waste into these? Is our sewage flowing into this?
Where's the Pink
What
Floyd
is
song
actually
Money
happening?
I need the Pink
What
Floyd
is
song.
that?
I need the Pink Floyd song Money. That's what I need right now. Speaking of music from before the last break. Yeah, that's what I need.
Like,
on
why
this one.
are rivers so freaking gross that like nobody wants to, like, if there's a company that's just dumping stuff into it, why don't we go knock on their door? Hello, could you not make our river so gross?
Exactly.
Or use the power of the government? That's one of the few things where, because I'm kind of a river rat.
Yes, you are.
I'm a little bit of a nerd and I love being on the river. And when they're gross and disgusting, I want to know why. So did a deep dive into this. I'll get into this in the 9 o'clock hour because there is a plan to try to clean up the Platte River. It runs through Denver. But I actually don't know if we're going to be able to because of what the real reason is when we run into these problems. So we'll cover that in the 9 o'clock hour, as well as all the breaking news and coverage that continues to come out. My goodness, this is just, Billy, I can't believe how fast the news is changing. I don't know if it's because I'm just new to this job.
Oh, yeah.
Things are actually crazy. Like we had an assassination attempt and then we had a president withdrawal and now we have conventions. It's just wild.
It is.
So
anyways. It is absolutely wild. It's and so just grab a helmet. Things are going to get interesting.
We're going to take a dip into the CN when we return. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill show.
I already feel gross. News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. Thursday, August 8th, 2024. And I just got a question for you, Billy. How much would you be willing to risk, or how much would it take for you to dive into the Seine River in Paris, knowing that it's already sent some athletes to the hospital?
Oh, now here's the thing. Sometimes in economics, you talk about the time value of money. Here we are going to talk about the time value of Billy. Young Billy would need about 2 shots of Jägermeister. Adult Billy isn't going anywhere near it. There's no way. You've got to pay me so much money. You got to take care of one of my kids' college bills in order for me to get into that sewage mess. It is ridiculous. And I say this because I just had in-laws and 2 members of my immediate family that live under my roof return from a trip to Europe earlier this summer, and they saw the river. Yes, it is filthy.
Don't get it. So first of all, we know how to clean water. All right. It's not the 1400s.
Yeah.
We know how to clean water. Secondly, if there's a problem out there and it's the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not Billy and Jeff went out drinking and dared each other to jump into the Seine.
Yeah.
The whole world is watching.
Yeah. We're not doing the polar plunge. We're not doing that. It's not a kid getting together on New Year's Day and jumping in cold water.
They would take it upon themselves to clean the water. So I'm sitting here looking at this headline. It comes from the Sun. And we'll get to this after the news. But murky waters, multiple Olympics 2024 athletes hospitalized after swimming in the polluted Seine, a nightmare for Paris organizers. Another event has been thrown into doubt this week. They have a bottle of water. This media guy is holding up what has got to be like just the most disgusting water. And we took the world's best triathletes.
Yeah, and the one thing that
told them
to swim in it. And the one thing is when anybody that has been in the pool and swimming long distances and trying to compete in a race, the one thing they know is you never swallow any of that water, do you? Never. No, that never goes in your mouth and accidentally gets in. Never.
I mean, this is a hellish dilemma for these people. This is not random 5K weekend swim type of event.
Yeah.
This is your livelihood, your career, and your future. Dive in and risk your life in this gross water in front of the whole world to see. It's sending the athletes to the hospital. And I'm sitting here going, why couldn't they clean it up?
Yeah. Now,
and
again,
I have a bit of an better understanding after that.
I will say, in the defense of Paris, they are French and they have a little bit of a different level of cleanliness. Just saying in general, their level of health totally different sometimes, but that's probably not an excuse here.
Bonjour, mes amis. All right,
like
we'll
to have
get
some
to
of my
this.
cigarettes.
And then I started asking myself about the Platte and what we're doing in Colorado and how clean are our rivers. So I had a fun journey through a lot of information I'm going to be sharing with you right after the news with
Jeff
Blake
had
Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. I was thinking the same thing that Billy was thinking there. I mean, it's not like they're in Japan where the water's going to be extremely clean.
Exactly.
I knew a lot of French basketball players who didn't shower for weeks. But, whatever. I digress.
It's a country that believes that a baguette and a cigarette is breakfast. So,
that's right.
Health limits are totally different there.
Absolutely. All right, 64 and cloudy, expecting a high of 76 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
We have to stay woke. Like everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
Kamala Khan continues. Presidential candidate Harris makes another appearance in Michigan today before heading to Arizona later tonight. It's the 18th day without a press conference or just a scrum with reporters. Last night, she and running mate Tim Walz held their largest rally to date at the Detroit Metro Airport. They were also in Wisconsin.
This campaign is not just about us versus Donald Trump.
It's about two very different visions for our nation.
Yes. Freedom and liberty versus communism.
Donald Trump handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court, the court of Thurgood and RBG, because he intended for them to overturn Roe v. Wade. And as he intended, they did.
Man, they just love their abortions, don't they? They love them. J.D. Vance was also in Michigan, and he told the crowd that the Trump team will fight the invasion of the southern border and shut it down, and send them back and defeat the clowns of chaos, Harris and Walz.
We do not consent to an invasion of this country for millions of people who shouldn't be here, and we are going to deport people. As he was promoting rioters and looters burning down the city of Minneapolis, Kamala Harris was helping to bail the rioters and looters out of jail.
Hey, President Biden, remember him? He will do his first interview since being forced out over 2 weeks ago by the Obama, Pelosi, Schumer cartel.
Why don't you just check yourself into the old fool's home while they still have a bed left?
It'll air on CBS News Sunday morning this weekend. The Secret Service is all jacked up, and there are whistleblowers as Ron Johnson seeks the truth in the assassination attempt of Trump.
We're checking the information from the feds, which is, from my standpoint, not unusual. I've been trying to do oversight on federal agencies for years, and they just refuse to be accountable to the American public. They are the law. They believe they're above the law, and that's the way they're acting right now.
Hey, good news. The Corey fire is now 100% contained, and the Alexander Mountain fire west of Loveland, 91% contained. The state is making plans to clean up abandoned oil and gas wells. Colorado was awarded $25 million from the Department of Interior. Heidi Leithwood has more on that, and I do not here we go.
All of those uncapped wells are contributing to that ozone problem that we have with the smog and the toxic pollutants that affect communities.
She's a climate policy analyst with 350 Colorado, who says this is a step in the right direction to protect health, safety, and the state's natural beauty. 3 Denver police officers fired for texts about illegal immigrants. The department says they were disparaging comments in a group text. Taylor Swift canceling her concerts in Austria this weekend because of an alleged terror plot. Austrian officials say the 2 suspects were taken into custody on Wednesday, including a 19-year-old Austrian citizen who allegedly pledged allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State. All right, the U.S. has won 94 total medals in the Olympics so far in the dirty water. They added 8 on Wednesday. The Rockies lose 5-3 to the Mets. Getaway day today at Coors Field. 1:10 first pitch. 59 in Castle Rock, 62 in Lakewood, 64 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Upslope conditions behind a cold front mean much cooler weather for Denver today and tomorrow. Highs only 60s and low 70s with areas of low clouds, patchy fog, and rain showers, and a few afternoon thunderstorms. Some rain showers and some thunder tonight, mid-50s, only reaching the low 70s Friday. Cloudy, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Warmer for the weekend with afternoon and evening thunderstorms, highs 80s. Weather sponsored by BranchPlanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at BranchPlanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Billy, it is a fantasy of mine that we'd have clean rivers in our cities.
Oh, mine too. Nicely done, my friend. Mine too. It is a fantasy.
I remember this video. This was a great music video. This was like 14-year-old Jeff being like, whoa, a pretty lady on a roller coaster.
And she is at her peak of performance at that time, as far as just engaging pop music and her personality, and God, her voice is spectacular. She's a little weird, but her voice is spectacular.
Mid-90s. All right. So, Billy, I spent 5 years as a river guide. I've spent 5 glorious summers sitting on the back of a boat, floating down the Arkansas River up in Buena Vista, Colorado. Beautiful, clear water, ice cold. It came down from the Rocky Mountains, got stored in Twin Lakes Reservoir, and then they controlled the water flow out near Leadville, came through. So I just enjoy it. And I've always asked my question, what in the world happens between that and the rivers you get in like downtown Denver, where you just have junk floating through it? And I saw this article in The Sun, murky waters, multiple Olympics 2024 athletes hospitalized after swimming in the polluted Seine River. In nightmare for Paris organizers, multiple triathletes have been hospitalized. The polluted river was used for the men's, women's, and mixed relay triathlon events. And this article has this reporter holding up a bottle of water. I think he just leaned down into the Seine River and just pulled it up, and there's stuff floating in it. It's gross and disgusting. 2 athletes have been hospitalized after swimming in the river. 1 fell seriously ill. 1 had to finish 49th out of 50 finishers because he couldn't even compete. He was seen puking after swimming in the river. 1 athlete has been sick for 4 days and been in the hospital, having to force one of the teams to withdraw from the relay races.
Jeez.
This is the Belgium Olympic team that had to do that. They're saying that we hope that lessons will be learned for future triathlon competitors. They can't train in it. They can't swim in it. They said they see and feel things out there that shouldn't be in there. And I'm just sitting there going, I can't believe this happened. First of all, because this is on the world stage, right? But then I wanted to understand what was happening. Like, how were they getting sick? And it comes down to E. coli. Okay. And particularly one form of E. coli that comes from our bottoms. It's poop water.
Oh,
Billy?
Oh, that's great.
Poop water.
Oh, yum. This is breakfast time. No,
that's exactly right.
That's awful.
So then I'm like, how in the world does this get in there? Do we just empty our sewage into there? And then I started looking at Colorado and America and kind of the Clean Water Act and all that stuff that's happened here. So basically, here's the history. For most of world history, the rivers were our dumps. It's where we sent everything we didn't want because it just disappeared.
Yep.
We sent it out there and who knows where it went, right? That's for somebody downstream to worry about. That's not our problem. And so everything from industrial waste to sewage to anything that comes from our streets just washed right into the river. That was the kind of history. And it wasn't really until about 50, 60, 70 years ago, Clean Water Act here in America, that we're like, we're going to clean up these rivers. And so we've been in a process of getting them better ever since. But why aren't they great today? And to their credit, Channel 9 did a story on this 2 years ago. Kyle Clark and Next asked, is it safe to swim in the South Platte River? And it is not. It is not safe to swim in the South Platte River because the E. coli river or the E. coli levels are just too high.
Oh, geez.
So then I'm like, well, why can't we just stop it? This is 2024. Why don't we have a nice clean river that runs through the middle of Denver that people can enjoy? And it comes down to our own fault, Billy.
What?
Because when it rains, the way we have designed our gutter systems is everything in our yards. So think of the dog poop out there in your yards.
Yeah.
All of that stuff runs down into the gutter. That then runs further down into bigger gutters that eventually end up in our streams and rivers. And because we don't have like filters in place, because we haven't spent the money or the time to clean those out, that is why you can get on a beautiful river up at the headwaters of the Arkansas in Buena Vista and enjoy crisp, clean, clear water. And by the time you get to Denver, it's gross and disgusting and full of needles and poop water.
We've all
is because we basically just allow all the stuff in our streets and yards to just flow right into the creek eventually, into the river.
Yeah, we've got that sort of in our neighborhood because, and there are even little placards that are on the ground right above the storm drains saying this, drains into local waterways, etc. This is not wastewater. Don't dump your stuff down here, kind of a thing. And no one cares. No one cares at all. And I'm gonna get on my soapbox here a minute. My soapbox. I got to get it out and stand up here really nice and straight because I'm super tired that none of y'all want to clean up after your dogs. I am tired of you being unwilling to reach down and pick up the stuff that came out of your dog's rear end. I'm tired of it because my family and the people in the neighborhood shouldn't have to walk around it. Kids in the neighborhood shouldn't be worried when they're playing about whether or not they're going to step in it. If I wanted dog poop in my front yard, I'd put it there. I got a dog. The fact it's not there should tell you something. Also, you're a dog owner. You fed the dog. You know what happens. Pretty sure you picked it up in your own house and around your own backyard. Refusing to when you walk around in our neighborhoods is ridiculous. Why is it everybody else's responsibility to clean up after your pet? And as Jeff is outlining, this washes into our waterways
Everybody
and
else
makes it sick. Yes, it becomes everybody else's problem. And that's the thing. You want to have a dog, you want to say you're responsible, pick up after it. It might probably not a surprise to our listeners that I might have gotten into some loud verbal confrontations with people over their lack of being willing to pick up.
I can totally see that.
Yeah, there was.
Okay,
on a side note,
that
there was
poor
one
person walking along, and then Bill just jumps down their throat.
It gets even worse. There was one time when I was on the phone with someone that is higher up the food chain with me at the other job where I work, and I'm like, hang on. And I went, blah, 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 and the person said something back, like, blah, 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 and I get back and I'm like, sorry, you had to hear that. And the guy has said, that was great. He goes, I wish people do that in my neighborhood. I'm like, oh, thank you. So yeah, that helped. But yeah, not a surprise.
Billy, you remember years ago, there was this dude that ran for New York mayor, and he ran on a single platform.
Yeah.
Of the rent is too dang high.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
The rent is too dang high. I would love one person, just a candidate to go.
Yeah.
I'm going to do one simple thing. This is where I'm like, okay, the government can step in and kind of clean some stuff up because it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Right. And we've gotten a lot of text messages on this, people, from what's really going on with these rivers down in the South Platte. Okay. But I would love for a mayor to be like, the one thing I'm going to solve, I'm going to get this water clean. We're going to put some filters or some grades or whatever it takes into the waterways that wash into the Platte River. So the people of Denver, have a nice river to walk alongside.
Yes.
And it's nice and clean and reflects this. Look, we're not in the 1500s. Our cities don't have to be dumps. We have the technology to clean it up.
Yes.
So good text message here. The Platte is a mess. You have the REI building, which was an old power plant, and dumped their crap in there. Number 2, there's a major RTD depot by Alameda and Santa Fe where they dumped their chemicals in the dirt and water.
Yep.
Number 3, during World War I, there was somebody doing experiments on some sort of radiation down there. You have Gates Rubber, and then you have the homeless.
Yeah.
So that combination of all that stuff has just made that part of the Denver, just the river, gross and disgusting.
Yeah, it's been absolutely disgusting down there. And there are times in which you even look at Cherry Creek and other areas, and it's not good. And the problem is it's the color, and it's a reflection on the neighborhood and how little we feel we care and we can do about it. We're not making it a priority. So why are we surprised that vagrants or anybody else would do anything inside that water?
Needles into it.
Why would it? Yeah. Why would we think it would be surprised? Because that's the way that we treated ourselves, and it's awful. It's horrible. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
when the Paris Olympics have to send their athletes to the hospital because your river is so gross, and we have the same problems here in Colorado. You can't swim it. Even Channel 9 saying, don't go swimming in the South Platte River. I'm just like, dude, I feel like we're at a place in our moment in history where we could figure this out and really have nice rivers.
Oh, we could.
And that would be nice for these cities. Why don't we do it?
We should.
We're spending money on everything else. Why can't we just, and if I think it's just like a filter thing for runoff, just fix that problem and things will probably be better. I don't know. Tell me what you think. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. I do want to tell you about my friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. You know the Jeff and Bill Show Top Talk radio program in Denver, thanks to our friends over at Westward who love the right-left balance that we have here on this show. Well, they also voted Advanced Hair Restoration the top hair restoration company in Colorado as well. Everyone always asks, what makes Advanced Hair Restoration different? Well, let me tell you about 3 reasons why, and then their once in a summer savings event that's taking place. Advanced Hair stands by the results. Their before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. And lastly, Advanced Hair's Advance FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. It's quick, it's simple, and it's easy. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, it's here. Advanced Hair Summer Savings Event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer. Look, I've had family members get their hair done, and they were a little single later in life, struggling there. This brought a youthfulness back to them. They felt younger, they looked better, and that gave them more energy, and things are going great for them. Advanced Hair Summer Savings Event taking place right now, 720-459-HAIR, one-day treatment, life-changing results, your new hair guaranteed to grow. Before and afters at advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com, 720-459-HAIR. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You can thank God you're not a triathlete trying to compete in the Paris Olympics. Those that are having to jump into the river that runs through the middle of Paris are getting sick, vomiting during the race. Some have had to go to the hospital, and it just all raised a question. I'm sitting here going, don't we have that? Like, literally, we have technology doing it. Why isn't the river clean? Like, how hard is it to do that? And apparently it's really hard because we basically allow everything in our yards to just flow into rivers. There's almost no cleaning mechanism whatsoever. So it just goes out there and just runs into it. And even the South Platte is so disgusting. You can't get into that. Channel 9 did a report 2 years ago, like, do not swim in the South Platte. And so I just raised this question. Why can't we fix this?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that hard. I understand the history. We basically dumped everything into our rivers. We currently just dump anything into our streets, into rivers, and that needs to be cleaned up. But if we're going to spend money on stuff, I would be okay putting some money towards that.
Yeah, of all the things
that's
the
kind of
government
like
can fix.
right.
Yeah, maybe water is a good thing.
Just
maybe
put some filters in, clean up some of those drainage ditches.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, if we're going to spend money to allow illegal immigrants to get debit cards and live 6 months in this country rent free, can we clean up our rivers? I don't know. Anyways, let's go to the phones, Billy.
Frank
we got Frank on, right?
Yeah. Hey,
yeah.
Frank,
Good morning, Frank.
Hey, Billy, you got the quickest Google in the West, so I would like for you to Google the average age or lifespan of a Parisian, male and female, while I'm posing a question to Jeff.
Let me see what I can do.
Jeff, how old are you?
42.
You know, I think it's great that you had your 5-year history on the river, but I think you're using a false comparator because you're way up as you go back up in the 60,000-foot view of our scenic rivers and everything. It's purely a cost thing, and it's also a massive thing. If you really wanted to look at some of the problems, you'd have to get a water purification person in to talk about some of it. It's too massive. I mean, where you were, there were only a few people around the drainage systems. And as the rivers go on down towards civilization or bigger population centers, you know, the problem gets worse, as you described, like the yards and the dogs and everything. So it's purely that. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be helped by some modern technology, but I mean, there's 3 things that happened in America that gave us a 20-year longer lifespan usually than the rest of the world. And that was getting the sewage out of the city. We learned that from the Brits, and that helped a lot. And that's one of the biggest causes of death in the third world countries.
Right.
And the second thing was antibiotics, and the third thing was immunizations. And actually, the first immunization came from Pasteur over in France. But, you know, it's purely a cost problem. They're never going to clean up the Seine. We're never going to clean up our rivers around the population centers because there's too many things. Not to say that we couldn't have some technology with small areas on the sides of the rivers where things coming from population centers weren't filtered or put in bigger septic tanks kind of thing, 2 or 3 chamber to filter out this stuff so that the effluent out of the septic tanks into the river was cleaner, and the digestive process for the bacteria and stuff was occurring in these gigantic septic tanks. And the other thing would be pumps along the river to pump water from the bottom up to the top, where sunlight could have it trickle over something to filter and clean it. So there's lots of things, but it's enormous cost.
You think so? Do you? I mean, the city of Denver's got a $4 billion budget. They're going to run after all these progressive special interest projects. I just feel I feel like government can do some really basic things. Really, I'm not a libertarian. I like the idea of a bit of a government, and I'm sitting there going, that river is disgusting. You can go spend a lot of money on other things. Can we at least maybe start the process of getting it better? I don't know. That's where I'm kind of like, I would be okay with some government spending there.
If you got a water purification person that could, from Denver, that could tell you about the things that drain into the Platte and the problems that they face, not only just filtration, macro filtration, minor, smaller filtration, then microbes and viruses and things that they attack with chlorine and things like that. But it's probably the system we got now with cleaning up the small amount of water in a pool with chlorine is probably more efficient for those who are able to go and partake of that. But,
Frank, I will put this caveat out there. We did send the government in one time to clean out a mine, and they absolutely destroyed the river. Do you remember the Gold King mine?
Yeah. That was the surface, and it was just putting lipstick on the pig, to make it look better and treat the locals, because the bad stuff probably went on downstream. It's better. Prevention is better.
Yeah. I think you're right. Well, Frank,
also for your thoughts. What was the age, Bill?
I've got mine. Well, the average age is 42, and life expectancy is just over 81 at this point. So there's my homework assignment.
Oh, so cigarettes and baguettes.
Their life expectancy is in the French is as long as ours, and but they're drinking wine and smoking cigarettes. So
right.
Slower.
You know what I've come to just believe, Frank, is that it comes down to genetics, and there's just no way, because I've heard people that are like, I ate McDonald's every single day of my life, smoked cigarettes and drank wine, and obviously there's certain things you could do that are bad for your health, but
well, they also don't.
It just seems like you got a number and there's not a lot you can do about it.
They also don't worry, and they don't worry about being the policeman for the world. They just get the flag out, the different flags that Peter talks about as the warring armies come through from France. So it's like your stresses. Stress has got to have something to do with it.
Yeah, that's probably right. Frank, I appreciate the call. Now, Billy, you and I were having a little debate off air as to whether or not Chevron deference could actually affect this.
This is the thing is, for our listeners, there's a show you hear on the air, and as Peter often talked about, there's another show that goes on behind the scenes. Sometimes the behind the scenes show is better than the one that's going on in the air. And that's one of the things that Jeff and I were just clashing on a little bit, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it too. 303-696-1971. Has the recent Supreme Court ruling about Chevron deference made it more difficult for us to achieve the goals that Jeff is outlining? Have they taken the teeth out of the EPA? Is the Supreme Court ruling going to make it much more difficult for us to do things like clean our waterways because the people that used to be in charge of that no longer get to make the rules? Jeff, your thoughts?
I don't think so, and I'll give you a few reasons why. I was reading one of the articles that came from Scientific America. The Clean Water Act has been around for well over 50 years now, and it's done a good job, right?
Yeah.
As far as cleaning out our waterways, and that was the goal of it, right? And Chevron deference just says, if you really want it, legislate it. Don't make it so broad that somebody in the administration can just essentially write laws. Because the executive branch has so much power.
Yeah.
So the American people through Clean Out Water Act said, we want this. We want clean water. We're going to make it important. And the rivers have absolutely improved, dramatically improved since the Clean Water Act. But at the same time, the caveat I have with the administrative state, Billy, is that they started to use the waterways rules and the Clean Water Act to monitor and regulate a pond on a farmer's farm.
Yeah.
Right? Like you remember this under the Obama years. It went so far and they felt like they had so much broad power that your little pond in the farm was all of a sudden now a waterway that the Obama administration could regulate. So
I'll do you one better. It's like a swamp or a bog that was granted what would be legally considered personhood because of those rules. You're right. So again, but it wasn't called a person, but legally the rights would give it personhood. Yes, exactly. So you are 110% right, my friend. 110%. Yeah, keep going. Yes.
So that's where I go, all right, we do have some laws in place. Clean Water Act has made a big difference. I think we just need to do it more. We've got to figure out the drainage issue.
Yeah.
And if that's where it's just flowing in, all right, then prioritize that. And I'd love to see a candidate for the mayor of Denver, like I said, to do this. Just the rent's too dang high. That's the only thing I'm talking about. The water is too dang dirty. I'm going to clean it up. We're going to clean it up. I would go, all right, I'm going to vote. This is where I would love to be in politics, Billy, instead of career politicians becoming lobbyists, making a fortune, and all that stuff. I would love politicians to go, you're going to elect me to do one thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend 4 years cleaning up the water in Denver so the South Platte looks good, and then I'm moving on to something else. Elect me, and I'll do
That's good. I'm surprised.
And of course, you've got to run other parts of the city. I'm not saying that like you don't, but just do one. Just be a politician that can claim one thing at the end of your term, and just promise to deliver that, and then be judged on your ability to have delivered that.
And closing the circle for where we started earlier this morning with Harris, Trump, everything else. I think you've hit on something very, very insightful, which is the lack of ability for so many politicians to come to you after their term and say, here's how I made your life better.
Yes,
and that's 100%. What you're talking about. Here's how I'm going to make your life better. Yeah, it's a great message.
And maybe it's because, like, I'm going to bring us back to the problem we have with cops and teachers.
Yeah.
Maybe we ask them to do way too much.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't imagine what Mike Johnston has to wake up to. Somebody did this. Some comedian did this the other day. Like, who wants the job of the president? Because you wake up and it's literally problems.
Yes, exactly.
Problems. Like, you just wake up and it's a phone full of problems.
Yep.
That you've got to deal with.
On a side note, when we were still in the offices over at Westwood One, a personal achievement of mine was to go nearly 3.5 years without a phone on my desk. They moved me to a new desk. There was no phone. I didn't ask for a phone. And eventually, when the tech person came over here, he's like, you've been here. Why didn't you have a phone for this long? And I looked at him and I said, seriously? Listen.
I don't want to solve your problem.
Like, this phone on here, when you put it on my desk, nobody's going to call me and tell me I won the Publishers Clearinghouse. Nobody's going to give me a free trip to Disneyland. Every time that phone rings, it's somebody with a problem and I got to stop what I'm doing and then have to solve it. And he looks at me and goes, that may be the smartest thing I've heard in a decade. He was like, you sure you want me to install the phone? I'm like, well, we're stuck now. You've got a work order. Nothing we can do. I played this game for as long as I could. So yes, you're right. I wouldn't want to be the president either because yes, you're just trying to solve problems. Now, here's a problem. We are going to now enter the world of the Jeff and Bill players. I am going to assume a role of a big time powerful lobbyist. And Jeff is going to assume the role of a very, very good upstanding politician who wants to clean up our waterways. I'm now knocking on his door. Representative Hunt.
Here's a check for you.
Yes. I understand you want to clean the water, but see, it's much more profitable for my business if I can just dump the stuff into the water. Have you seen this number of zeros on the check I'm sliding across the desk to you that is going to help your re-election? Right. Harump. Have a good day, sir. I know you'll do the right thing. And scene. Yeah, that's it. That's the problem, man. That's the problem with that.
It absolutely contributes it. And to your point, Breadman texting in, the rivers can't be clean because we have anarcho-tyranny, a government that can't execute basic functions like cleaning a river and is tyrannical to pro-life Catholics.
That's nice. That's really good.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Saw the news of these triathletes getting sick, puking,
awful,
having to go to the hospital and being asked to have to do this in order to further their career, swim in poop water.
Awful.
And I just asked, why can we do that? But
yeah, and for our
apparently
listeners,
it's gonna
and this is what I want our listeners to take from this, that Jeff pointed out today. This is what I want you to take away. When you're going around our beautiful state, take a look at those waterways when they are in the mountains and what they look like when they're here in the city. How did they get that way? That's what Jeff's pointing out. We're doing it to ourselves. We can clean it. It's pretty when it's in the mountains. It's crap when it's here. Let's be better about this. And unfortunately, it's the guys in charge, and we're not allowed to be in charge of anything.
That's right. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. That's probably a good thing.
Yes, it is. News Talk 710 KNUS.
Really? Yeah, management's gone into a sales meeting, my friend.
They did. They just closed the door. So that means we have a brief window of opportunity to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news. Yes, I spent, seconds this morning scouring the interwebs to find really dumb stories about us humans. Why? We do a lot of really, really dumb things. Well, here's what we do. We give them even stupider headlines to play this fake radio news game show because it's silly, it's ridiculous, and can't be serious all the time. Plus, the people in charge have no idea we're doing this. So, we've got a brief window here. Alrighty, Jeff Hunt, choose carefully. Your choices this morning are headline number 1, nuclear salad. Headline number 2, Putin fan auditions for new job. Headline number 3, maybe it's about motivation. And headline number 4, recommended by that other dentist. Your choice, sir.
Well, when you mentioned nuclear salad, I had visions, and we were just talking about the river of the 3-eyed blinky fish from The Simpsons. And maybe that's part of the reason why the South Platte's so bad, too. But let's go with nuclear salad.
Love Blinky. All right, go with nuclear salad. We're going to Lehigh Universities. Researchers at Lehigh are experimenting with nuclear fusion. They are potentially trying to unlock a limitless source of clean energy with mayonnaise. Yes, mayonnaise. Yes. And here's the thing. It's not because it is a delicious salad topping or works good on your sandwiches. It's because mayonnaise holds the same basic physics properties as plasma. It's a solid that behaves like a liquid when compressed, as plasma does. So they're playing with mayonnaise because it helps them understand exactly how plasma would react in certain conditions without all the energy and danger. So yes, they're playing with mayonnaise to try to make clean energy for the rest of us. Yeah.
That is awesome. I knew mayonnaise would save the world.
Have to. Now, a question. Are you a real mayonnaise guy? You do that imitation stuff?
There's that. What is that other one that's weird?
It's like not. Yeah. It's like the Miracle Whip. Miracle Whip.
Miracle Whip.
Yeah.
I have family members. I'm not going to out you that are consumers of that weird stuff.
Oh, no.
But no, man, it's the OG. It's
Absolutely.
The original mayonnaise.
Absolutely.
And you load it on there.
Yes, you
It's
do.
delicious.
Yes.
It's sandwich lubricant.
It is. I love that. That is fantastic. And there's a special moment in your lives when your children all of a sudden say, yes, I will have the mayonnaise. Then you know you've got a good job.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
Second
right.
choice this morning, sir. Putin fan auditions for new job. Maybe it's about motivation or recommended by that other dentist.
Let's hear about the Putin fan.
Yes, Putin fan auditioning for a new job. A chess player has been suspended by the Russian Chess Federation for trying to poison an opponent, like Putin do.
Boy.
Yes, the 40-year-old chess coach was actually filmed on security cameras putting poison into the beverage of an opponent. The person later did admit that, they were just trying to give their student a leg up or maybe even an extra kidney. But she also said that, hey, Vlad, look at your girl right over here. I got some skills. So, so maybe she can find a part-time job killing people for Putin.
What the Russians have proved is that you can do that. You can go to jail for it, and there's ways to get out of jail.
Yes, there are
doing that as well. So,
yes, as long as you belong to another country.
They have squared the whole circle.
They sure have. Final choice this morning, sir. Maybe it's about motivation or recommended by that other dentist.
Let's do the dentist.
Yeah, recommended by that other dentist. A Lancaster man obviously was listening to that other dentist. You know how they say 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Trident? Well, this is the other guy. See, Liam Powell had been part of a large-scale disorder outside a pub in Bolton this previous weekend. He was arrested for it, and they found a small bag of drugs on his person. It was a small bag of powdered cocaine. Why did he have the powdered cocaine? Because he was listening to that other dentist. He said he had tooth pain, so he was rubbing it on his gums and his toothes because it would help, not because he's a cocaine addict.
Wow.
But again, you were always curious what happens when you find that other dentist. Dude recommends cocaine. So
cocaine, not
like Rocky Mountain Dental Group here. Never going to say put cocaine on your drums. Never. They're a fine,
Dr.
upstanding
Mike.
dentist. Yes.
No, Dr. Mike's not a cocaine dealer.
Not at all. Alrighty. That is the end of You Choose the News. As always, Jeff is the winner, and I'm a big giant loser. Back to you, sir. We got about a minute.
Well, we've had an absolutely fantastic show. If you missed any of it, we covered everything from Denver's very best burger, which is at the Cherry Cricket. Go check it out. To Venezuelan gangs breaking into jewelry stores. Frank Luntz believing Kamala Harris is currently in the lead and is going to win it if the election was today. How in the world did we get to that place after Trump's meteoric rise and the RNC bump that all took place? So does that mean that Kamala Harris's bump is just temporary and things are not going to work out for her? And then, the Seine River and how disgusting it is, and the South Platte, and don't go swimming in it. It's
not at all.
It's poopy water.
That's
basically. So we solved all the world's problems and discovered the best burger in Denver. It was a magic show. If you missed it, go to 710knus.com to download the podcast there. We've also got Charlie Kirk and Cal Thomas coming up next. Yes.
Salem family coming back after 2 years off the air. Larry Elder, now in the afternoons. Afternoon drive home, Larry Elder. It's like slipping into a comfortable pair of shoes. He's great.
That's right. Larry Elder came to the Western Conservative Summit the other year. Fantastic guy. Really glad to have him back on the air. So tune into that. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.